Hey everybody, welcome to Current Gen episode 232. It's just Dan and Kyle again because it's just us. That's why. There's no because.
Well, Tim heard what I was saying last week, and he doubled down on the "go fuck yourselves," like "you're dead to me" stuff, So
I wasn't gonna air it out, but there it is.
Yeah,
it's all on the table.
Yeah. Like Dad basically wrote up the papers, like he's disowned us. We're basically orphans now.
Yeah, well, what's the opposite of when a kid like emancipates himself? That's when the parents like fuck you. That's kind of what's going on here.
Yeah. Basically. So
yeah,
thanks, Dad.
So yeah, thanks everybody. Yeah, we're gonna power through this non-week. Not a lot of new releases, right, Dan?
Yeah.
No. Some news. D23 is going on right now. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Outside of that, we're just gonna kind of cruise through it this week. No gimmicks. No lists. No stops.
There will be shenanigans.
Yes. Yeah. We're gonna have shenanigans, but it's straight laced today.
Yeah, I'll leave if there's no shenanigans. I mean, there's always got to be at least shenanigans.
Well, if I leave, it's not even because of my internet. It's because I'm mad at our shenanigans quota that we're not meeting. So
yeah, your internet is being shenanigans.
Yeah. This whole we're trying to colonize Mars, Dan, but my internet goes out every once in a while. Well, that was the air or the pressure. All right. Well, yeah. Let's just go over some little news bits. I'm not going to hit all the news stuff just because I kind of want to talk more about D23 because that's kind of fun. I guess it's not really gaming related, but it's nerd related, I suppose. So, and I think you and I are the only ones not burnt out on nerdy things right now. So
I love nerdy things.
We'll just we'll talk a little nerdy Disney stuff, but we won't dwell on too many things here. Let's just start with a little news here. Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake confirms new story content, so that's pretty cool. I don't want to go into any of the specifics or anything like that, but that game does come out on November 14th, and this game just keeps on taking more shape of not just a re-release and with a pretty 2D, coat of paint over it. It's they're adding a lot of cool stuff here. It seems like so. You get to delve into the mysterious backstory of the player character's father, Ortega. So. I'm sure that means something to somebody.
I was gonna say, I'm wondering if it was like things that were kind of like left on the writer's floor, so to speak, or whatever the thing is, or if it's like completely like as they were doing this, they're like, let's just add this thing. You know what I mean? Like, did it exist before and it didn't make the cut, or is it brand new? So
I would love to.
That's what I wonder.
I wonder that too.
That's what I wonder. But
it's pretty cool though. I like it that's happening. So for people who are, because this will be my first time playing this particular one.
Same.
That I would have never known, but I just like that you're still getting a little more bang for your buck with that one. So that's pretty cool. You and I, this is not for you and I, but we got to talk about Call of Duty, Dan, because Call of Duty is the biggest game ever in all of video games. Nope. Okay, let's skip it. All right. So
what do they do now? What do they do now?
No, nothing. They just released the zombies trailer. Talked a little bit about zombies. People got hands-on time with zombies. Zombies is a big deal to people. I don't care.
No, I thought you liked zombies. No, I thought you were a fan of the zombies.
I couldn't tell you the last time I played a zombies mode, but I do like zombies mode. But I couldn't tell you the last time I actually bought Call of Duty that has buying Call of Duty games is a 2-year-old thing for me. Relatively new after taking a long break. So and never again, Dan. Never again.
I don't blame.
I'll play it for free on Game Pass. Or free. We can't say.
Right.
Get crazy.
Anyways,
there's a lot. There's a lot of information out there. If you want to delve in more, you don't want to hear us talk about this because we'll be bored. So go out there and get your Call of Duty information elsewhere. But
all right. That is enough of that. All these shenanigans while I'm gone. I don't like this. I apologize to the listeners, to the viewers. I'm taking back over. Okay, Dad is back. Now, Dan is still here. You might be wondering why Dan's here and Kyle's out. For Kyle, that was strike 3. Okay, Kyle, it's been too many times. You've been booted, at least for this week. Please come back next week. Dan, this is your last warning, though, okay? This is strike 2 for you. And next week, you're also out. It's just going to be me talking to myself after this. Okay. So, enough of that. No more shenanigans.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I will do my best to unravel the shenanigans that ensued the last shenaniganed. So
that was the last shenanigan you've shenaniganed.
Nice.
And Kyle, do better. Hashtag do better. You know what I'm saying? You guys know what I'm saying.
Everyone
Well,
does.
I'm back after traveling for a little while. Dan and Kyle holding down the fort, talking about some baddies in games, and I don't mean like good-looking people. They meant actual bad guys.
Yes, I'm such an old man. I'm like, bad guys, right? Baddies. It's
yeah.
Like,
no. I do think that one comment on the video that said "what," I had a feeling they were wondering if you were talking about.
And then I said what?
You said what? Yeah, I did see that.
What?
But this week we're gonna do a different kind of ranking. It's gonna be of the Final Fantasy variety, so we'll talk about that. We also have some news to go over. A couple new releases, not a ton. This is really, we're about to start the final week of. I'm not insulting any specific game that's coming out. It's just none of us have been super psyched across the board for anything. And this is the last week of that. We're going to start to hit some games between the Black Myth Wukong game and then Star Wars. And we're going to start to pick up some steam here. And really about a week from now, we'll start to pick up some steam.
That is how summers are usually like sports games, right? Which is coincidental that this year's in particular college football is back, because that's like always been the thing.
It was a significant one. Yeah
So
agreed. Totally agree. Now there are some new games out that are worth at least mentioning, that either you, Dan, or people who are watching might be interested in. Number one, I actually did purchase this one. It's just only my son has played it. That Steamworld Heist 2 is out. So this game is think like Worms, kind of a side-scrolling XCOM, but not really. But it's turn-based, and you position your little SteamWorld robots on these ships. Usually, sometimes you're out in the open, but usually on a ship, and you're trying to use ricochets and explosive barrels and try to hide behind stuff in order to get your shots off at the enemy. So, and you have a team, and you take turns. So it's pretty fun, though. You can upgrade things. You have different classes to use. The first game had these things too, but this one is just, it looks better. It runs smoother. It's got more options. It's got more of an open world type of a map to explore compared to before, where it was a little more like point A to point B. Here's your next thing to do. This one's a little bit more go where you want. Open area, sort of.
Yeah.
But anyway, the battles go into this kind of a side-scrolling view, and then you can move your little, depending on your character's stats, you can move different distances. Again, like Mario plus Rabbids, sort of.
Yeah.
And then take your shot. You can have a couple actions per turn. It's kind of like what you would expect from these turn-based strategy kind of games. But I don't know if you've ever played the SteamWorld games, Dan. Have you ever gotten into any of those?
I've like barely dabbled in like this entire world. Like I played a little bit of SteamWorld Dig.
The first one?
Maybe even the second one. I don't remember. It was like, I think it was just like the demo or something. And I don't know. It just wasn't clicking for me.
Sure.
I think I just totally did. It might have been the first one, actually, because then I just didn't really understand what it was, because I had never played anything like that. So I was like, I don't really know what we're supposed to be doing here. But yeah, I'm just not familiar with this universe, this Steamverse, if you will.
I would argue that games like SteamWorld Dig and Spelunky, they walked so games like Dave the Diver could run, because I think Dave the Diver is a similar, you have limited resources to go down into the depths of something and then get the resources that you're looking for or explore, and then try to get back up safely with all the stuff you've collected. So the SteamWorld Dig games, the original ones, 1 and 2, have that vibe, but they've grown out. Now they have like a RPG card game, which, as someone who likes this series, and I've played embarrassingly little of that game, although I do own it. I do. That's one of my backlog games that I want to play more of. It looks fun. But it's a turn-based RPG game where you use cards to do your moves and stuff like that. And then they've got the City Builder one that just came out last year. That's on Game Pass, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think they have a couple others too. I think they have I feel like there's a shooter type one. Anyway, all that to say, I think this IP is an interesting one. It's fun. It's very clever. It's charming. It does not take itself very seriously. And I think that's to its credit, because a lot of things do take themselves really seriously. So anyway, SteamWorld Heist 2 is out. It's getting like low 80s average scores right now, like 82, I think. So very quality, essentially, across the board is the verdict. So, and my son gives it 2 thumbs up. He's loving it.
Nice.
So so that one's really fun. That's out. There's one that's out called Vladik Brutal. which is a great name, Vladik Brutal, but it's got like a lowercase I. Everything else is uppercase. I don't know why. But it's set in like a Russian or Eastern European type country. It's a fictional country though, with this dictator, and they've put these chips in everyone's neck, and so it's essentially like a rebellion against an evil dictatorship type of a game set in the gritty Eastern European or Russian sort of 60s, 70s looking landscape. Maybe a little World War II at times.
Vladik, it's like this is like
it's what you expect when you hear Vladik. Vladik. But it looks good. It's a first-person shooter. It looks like it could be fun to play. I think the early reviews from users are pretty positive so far. But yeah, so Vladik Brutal is out. Also, Cat Quest 3, if you're a cat person. I've never asked you this, Dan. Cat or dog person, if you had to pick?
I do prefer dogs, but I like well-behaved dogs. I mean, really, just any pet that's well-behaved. If you have a shit pet, then that's a no-go.
Cats can be horrible sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. But cats are easier to take care of, so it's like it's a tricky thing because it's like we just have the cat, and she's way easier to take care of than a dog.
You almost forget they're there sometimes.
Right. But like the dog has, the affection, and it's like that's great and all, but sometimes it's also a little too much. I sound like an asshole basically. I'm like all over the place, but
yeah, they can be too much. Some dogs get real excited and they pee all over the floor when you come home, and it's like, I don't want this. This is not what I want.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like our dog is 2 now, about 2.5, and she's at the age where she does like a good run around, and like she does get a little wild and likes to play, but she also really likes just to chill out. And whatever room you move to, she'll wait to see if you've settled in, then she'll come to you and lay by your feet or on your feet, or like she just wants to be near you. So and if you're like frustrated and your anxiety level's high, it seems like dogs kind of sense that, and those come sit beside you, and like Absolutely. They just like, go ahead, pet my head, you'll feel better. And I'm like, you're right every time. You're right every time.
You know me.
Yeah, you know me. Listen, I know there are some cats who I've heard have done similar things, just not very many. And there are some dogs who don't do that, and that sucks. They're just mean. That sucks too. But there's not very many. I think most dogs are the best. So
yeah.
Anyway, we've had both. I like both. But Cat Quest 3, it's not Dog Quest. Cat Quest 3, also getting like swimming in sevens type reviews. But these games do look charming and fun. I've just never played them.
Yeah, Renee and I like beat the first one, and then like we started the second one, which actually has a dog. The second player is the dog. Nice. But like that one just apparently was too difficult for her, so we didn't really get into it. But I just downloaded it actually a couple of days ago on the PlayStation because I showed her the trailer for the third one. I was like, oh, like this pirate.
It does look fun.
Thing. Yeah, this sailing in it, like with the ship and like ship battles. So she's like, all right, let's download the second one and give it another try. So.
It looks very wholesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like the look of these. I think like they're like one of those like simple but like fun, good like jump into co-op games to play with like your kid or like your significant other who doesn't game a lot. So yeah.
Agreed completely. It is very much. My daughter's name is Nev. It's a Nev game through and through. She loves these kind of things. So yeah, but it looks charming. It looks cute. And then there's a game called Deathbound, which Derek and I talked about when we did our top Souls games, and we previewed some Souls games that are coming out. This is in that list. What makes Deathbound, they all try to have their own creative hook. Maybe it's setting, maybe it's the visuals, maybe it's some gameplay feature. This one, at the very beginning of its description, talks about how it's a party-based Souls-like. So that's its hook. It's trying to be party-based. No idea if that means you can, don't ask me. I don't know if you can play solo or not, if it works well, if it scales. I have no idea how it works, but anyway, that's how it describes itself. Deathbound. It's getting like the 70%, I think, user positive review, like in that range. So like, it's like most Souls-likes made by indies or smaller companies. It's like if you really want a Souls-like, here's another one if you want to try it. But it doesn't sound like it's groundbreaking, like Lies of P, for example.
Yeah, there's other options that are superior.
For sure. Yeah. If you want that genre, there's plenty of other options. And then last but not least for this week is Volgar the Viking 2, which I think we've mentioned some way, shape, or form in this podcast. I don't remember why, but this is a super old school, super difficult kind of platforming action game in the vein of stuff like Golden Axe or in ActRaiser when you're doing the side-scrolling parts of those levels. Like it's got that vibe to it where you're I mean, it looks like the jumping has to be really exact. You can't jump very far. It looks like it's difficult. Like it looks like a NES, maybe early SNES, but probably NES or Sega type of a game. But yeah, these games, I like the vibe of them. It really takes me back. But I have no idea if they're any fun. But
we got Vladik and Volgar this week.
That's right.
A lot of V stuff going on. So
yeah, I think that's the end of it though. So I'm sorry. That's all the V stuff that I got for you.
Not Fat Quest 3.
I don't have that either. Maybe one of these Final Fantasy things that we rank will have a V. I don't know if there's any summons that start with a V. I guess we'll find out.
There is actually.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll get to that. There'll be more V's to come, everybody. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Thank you. That's okay.
But that's what she said. But since there aren't a ton of new things that you and I have been, unless you have you been playing something new that maybe out this week or last that you want to highlight?
No, I again continuing the trend of
old stuff.
Dude,
I'm all in on college football and No Man's Sky right now, and playing some more Sekiro now that I'm back from my trip. I just jumped back into that. I was gonna play it on my trip. I just didn't have much gaming time when I was there, so so I didn't play much Sekiro. I was gone, but those are my main 3 at the moment. So I'm right there with you. Although I do plan on playing some Steamworld Heist 2. But this coming week, we've got a couple of games that are at least of note, even if they're not games that we're going to jump into immediately. Of course, you got Madden hitting this week. It's always a big moneymaker. It's no FIFA, but it's up there, right, as one of the biggest sports games. So that hits on the 16th. On the 15th, we've got Xbox finally getting Kena Bridge of Spirits. Really pretty game. Cool. Yeah, that's a fun game. Yeah. I wonder if they fixed that final encounter, because it was a weird difficulty spike at the end.
It was. That was like, the only thing in the game where I was like, oh, this is kind of difficult.
And not even like, I don't mind the difficulty, but there should have been a checkpoint, because there's 2 halves to that fight, and it's like, did this become a Souls game at the end? This became really tough, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, I love that game still. It's beautiful, so pretty.
Yes.
So definitely play it if you've skipped it on the PS5 or on PC. Really, really pretty game. And by the way, I'm super excited for whatever they do next. Like, I'm down for more of this Kano, this world with the spirits and like the little. I'm down for that, but I'm also down for some new IP, because they make pretty games. You know?
Yeah. There's definitely, if I remember correctly, there's definitely like we can continue this.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, they've kind of introduced a cool kind of universe with some rules around how spirits work and what her job is as a. I forget what they call her. Her role as that person, like she took over for her dad, I think, as someone who escorts the spirits or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool idea. There's a DLC for Dredge coming out this week called Iron Rig. I need to catch up on the other DLC for Dredge. I loved that game last year.
Not played that one.
I need to play more of it. It's got a really cool dark undertone to what is, generally speaking, kind of a fun, lighthearted indie game, but then it's got some darkness to it, which is pretty fun. Anyway, that's a fun game. There's one called I Am Your Beast that I wanted to highlight coming out this week too. It just looks cool. It's super fast paced. It's got a cool art style to it. You're running and shooting. You're like kind of like Spartan kicking guys off the cliff and then jumping and zip lining around. It just looks kind of neat. Don't know if it's any good, but plus the title's cool.
It's like Angerfoot or whatever, but
yeah, like kind of Ghost Runner, Angerfoot a little bit. You know, Ghost Runner where you're just running from the spot. It looks like you're moving fast.
Yeah. Okay. So, but a little more cell shaded. It has like a cell shaded look to it. So
some cell shading style in the visuals. And then I wanted to highlight Dawn of Defiance, just because I am always down for checking out a survival kind of open world explore and survive and build game. I have found very few of them click for me. I'm not a survival game fan, I've learned. I just like certain ones. So of course, Valheim and Shrouded. I think it's when they do a really good mix of survival with exploration and RPG that's fun.
Yeah.
I think that's where I start to really get hooked. Or like in Valheim's case, if the building is just perfect, if it just feels
building is real. It's real nice.
It just feels just right.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite aspect of that game.
I know. By far, it's the best one in that. And the other ones do okay, but after a while, I'm like, man, this is just, it's not smooth. With building in Valheim, I just feel like it almost moves quick like Fortnite. You just kind of build quick. You just kind of snap them together.
Yeah, it's just got a good snap to it, and it just works really well. Yeah, for sure.
So, Dawn of Defiance does look cool though. Again, it's kind of like the Nightingale game, which I am planning. That they've updated that game a ton. I'm looking forward to trying it again. With all the updates. But it's got the look of something like that where it looks very high definition. It looks very modern. Can they deliver? Will it perform well? Jury's out.
Yeah,
we'll see.
This Dawn of Defiance, it's Greek survival, so we're doing like Assassin's Creed Odyssey with like survival twist to it. So that's interesting.
Right, the setting looks cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm down with that.
Sure.
But anyway, so this is the last week of games like that. And this is no offense to those kind of games, right? Whether it's a key re-release like Kana or some kind of indie darling that could come out of nowhere, or maybe a big sports game like Madden. It's the week after this where it starts to get serious for end of summer, beginning of fall games. And I am very excited. There's a lot of I hope at least it's time to get serious. There's a lot of hopefully very fun games.
No more. We're not playing any games. All right, we're gonna play games.
You know what, Dan? Game time's over. Okay.
Yeah, time for games.
Game time's over. It's time for games.
It's time for games. For sure.
Anyway, so I wanted to rank something together. As we were chatting, as I knew you and Kyle had just done too many shenanigans, so.
Sure.
I'm gonna continue with the bit that I jumped in and kicked you guys off. Not that you had technical difficulties and we had to reschedule. I'm not gonna that's a boring version of this.
That never happens.
That didn't happen. But as we were chatting about it, I was like, I just want to rank something. I kind of want to get back into the groove of thinking through like what are some of my favorites of things. And so then I thought, well, if it's just me and Dan talking, let's do something Final Fantasy. What haven't we ranked with Final Fantasy? There's always something to rank in Final Fantasy, right? We've 100%. Done all the way back in the day, and we could always revisit this. It's always fun. Let's rank the Final Fantasy games. We've done that before together. But then it could be like, I think we've done boss fights and music before. I don't know. We've done a couple different things where we talked about the best of.
Yeah.
And so, which those would all be fun to revisit. But this time I thought, let's do some Final Fantasy summons. And so, if you're not familiar with the Final Fantasy series, first of all, what's wrong with you? But second of all, they're not always called summons. That's just what I call them. Sure. I think they're generally referred to that way.
There's summons. There's girlfriends, aka Guardian Forces, aka GFs.
Yeah. There's espers.
Espers. There's aeons.
Icons.
Icons. There's so many. I don't know why they do that. I kind of wish they just stuck to one. And summons, I think, is just the most like general, all-encompassing. Right. But it's fine. It's fine.
I mean, to be fair, sometimes, like in 16, they find a really cool way to make them part of the story and the lore.
Right.
Sometimes they aren't connected to the story at all. They're just powerful things you can summon in battle, and they don't even bother trying to make them important. But sometimes, like in 6 and in 16, they're very important to the storyline. The espers that you summon in 6 are absolutely essential to that whole story of what Kefka's trying to do. And then in 16, of course, they are kind of rare and they represent almost a nation in a way. So it's interesting the way they did that too in 16.
Fun fact, Tim, summons, or whatever word you want to use, top 3 favorite thing for me in Final Fantasy, period.
Interesting. You just have a list of favorite things in Final Fantasy?
It's just when I think about Final Fantasy, like summons are like when I started getting into the series, and a new one was being announced, to be like, dude, like what are the summons gonna be like? I was like so pumped about summons. Like I love the idea of like this monster, this thing that just comes out of nowhere and just like does badass shit, this crazy like move or whatever, Your diamond, that's what they do. Shiva. So on and so forth.
Yeah. How little clothing is Shiva going to be wearing is part of it.
True.
How many things is Ifrit going to light on fire?
Very true. Very true.
How high is Bahamut going to fly before he lasers down onto the earth? Right. Like all the different.
How many Bahamuts are there?
How many Bahamuts will there be? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What level of flare will he go up to? Is it just mega? Are we talking Giga?
Giga Chad flare. Giga Chad flare. Like just
is there an Ultima flare too, right? Or no? There's definitely Giga.
Giga flare, Tetra flare, like
there's a Tetra flare. Yeah.
Like this, because like in Final Fantasy VII, for example, there's 3 Bahamuts, and they all have the different. It's escaping me the name of each. Shame on me.
But they each have a different attack name, right?
Yeah, they have a different. Yeah, so.
Yeah, Tetra Flare sounds familiar. If that's not it, it's something like that. But but anyway, I'm with you. Like the summons are a quintessential part of what makes Final Fantasy it's like, oh, this is a Final Fantasy game because the
Right.
Ifrit is in there, or Ramu is right there, or Bahamut is
Yes.
like Shiva. So you start to like the summons really help bring a Final Fantasy feeling to something that in some cases, 16 is one of these cases where it doesn't always feel right away like Final Fantasy, but the summons, boom, it feels like Final Fantasy. And to its credit, they did a lot of things in 16 that really did feel like Final Fantasy. I'm just saying that kind of helps secure it as like, oh yeah, we're in a safe place here with Square. Like they made a Final Fantasy.
You see a chocobo, Final Fantasy. You see some guy named Sid, Final Fantasy.
Yes,
you see a little cactus, Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's really hard to hit.
Yeah. Always running away and looking dumb. You know. Yeah.
That's right. Or a little Tonberry who looks like kind of a Yoda with a dagger, and
this mofo right here.
That guy right there with the lantern. He's always trying to stab you.
No stabbing. Absolutely.
So yeah, I think here's what I thought we could do. We could name our personal favorites, and I made a list of 5, and then plus some honorable mentions. I don't know if you've got a list. We could just go back and forth.
I definitely like off the top of my head know like
you could do a 5, right?
Yeah, very easily.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. 100%. So we'll just do 5 of our favorites as of today. Whatever. Next week that list could be different. Don't hold us to it. This is not that serious. Here's our criteria. You ready? Our criteria is because we said so. That's the whole criteria.
There you go. Get wrecked.
No explanation needed. It's just because
get wrecked comment section.
And then I thought we could look at just 1 or 2 outside lists that I found after that, just to see what you think about some of those too, Dan. Especially want to get your thoughts on that. But then we'll move into the headlines after that. But for right now, let's start with some of our personal favorite Final Fantasy summons / whatever else they might be called in a given game. Let's just do some honorable mentions first. I'll name 2, then you name 2. Ones that wouldn't be in maybe a top 5. You just want to mention that, like, hey, this one, I like this one a lot. It's just not my top 5. So I'll mention 2, and then you mention 2. So here's 2 for me. 1, I would say Gollum. Gollum is 1 for me, especially or Golem, however you pronounce it. I'm sorry. Not Gollum from Lord of the Rings, but Golem.
Right.
Okay.
Probably Golem.
But yeah, big giant rock dude that, especially in 6, that's the first time I saw him. I think it was 6. So I always thought he was really cool, and I always liked it. He did really good attack, had a really good attack power, but not nearly as cool as, and I think I'm saying this right, Ixion from Final Fantasy X, who's one of like the story-based aeons, I think they're called in that one, right?
Yep, they're aeons.
Yep. So of course, Ixion is part of, like, it's not one that you can optionally go find. Like some of these, you have to go search and do special side quests and beat ridiculous bosses. Ixion is part of the storyline, and I just loved the design. I thought it was super cool. It was brand new for 10, so yeah.
Well, so when you were saying, are you meaning, because again, I'm actually not as like super. You actually know more about 6 than I do, because like it's been such a long time since I even dabbled. Is it Titan, or is he actually called Golem in 6?
He was called Golem in 6, but I'm gonna just confirm that I'm not confusing that with 5.
Because they might have later changed it to like then consistently calling him Titan.
They might have. Let's see. Yeah, Golem. Yeah, he's like.
It is Golem. Okay, it is Golem.
I want to say he almost had did he have a robot look in 6? They've changed his style a lot.
Oh, wait, yeah. Maybe, was he kind of robotic? Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then,
I probably liked it because at the same time I was playing stuff like Chrono Trigger, and I loved Robo, which was the most creative robot name ever. But,
yeah, I wonder what he is, right? I have no clue. Absolutely no clue.
So anyway, but also, of course, Ixion, that cool, like, lightning horse.
Lightning horse. Yeah, dude. Very, very cool.
What are 2 that are like, hey, not my top 5, but I like these 2?
So let's see. Gilgamesh over the course of the series has popped up as a summon, and that character, he does different things throughout the series. He's always kind of like a bit of comic relief, but also like he's a badass because he just has like all these different swords of just like enemies that he's slain. So like actually like kind of a cool summon, just because like aesthetically, like he actually does look cool, and yeah, he acts a little goofy, but like
especially in 8 he becomes super cool.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think of another one that I'm kind of like, well, this one maybe, but
well, he's actually on my honorable mention list too, but I kind of grouped them together with Odin, Gilgamesh, and Raiden, because they're all kind of connected. So like Odin, of course, is across the whole series, and at different times would be my favorite depending on the game. Gilgamesh kind of takes over, sort of. for Odin, at least in one of the games, but then he stands on his own later. But then in 6, there's this, and I only did this because I played the game through so many times. I eventually followed a guide and did this. But you can essentially get the Odin Esper turned into Raiden, who's like a stronger version of him by doing a certain storyline beat. And it was so cool. His attack is amazing. So
see, I love stuff. I love stuff like that. In the series too, with summons, yeah, like you were saying earlier, like sometimes you have to do side quests to get like the hidden summons, right? Like if you just mainline the story, like in Final Fantasy X, for example, there is the Magus sisters, or the Magus sisters, however.
Oh yeah, like triplets or something.
Yes, and you could just play the story, and you would not get them. Like you have to do the side quests that pertain to that. So like I think that's really cool because it feels extra special getting the summons in whatever Final Fantasy you're playing when it is like through a series of side quests that you might have completely missed. So but speaking of swords and kind of like samurai sort of vibes, Yojimbo from Final Fantasy X, also very cool. Kind of a cheap summon because it's like a whole joke within the community of like you just throw a shit ton of gil at him and he'll just like basically demolish anything. Or it's a certain amount. It's a certain amount, I think.
He's a really colorful costume, right? Like really colorful.
Yeah, and he's got like like a dog with him.
That's right. That guy's awesome.
He's got the hat like over his head, and he's very colorful. Yeah, but he's got like a robe. And
is he only in 10?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure he's only in 10. But he looks cool. He's just got a cool samurai vibe to him, and I mean, I love like samurai stuff. So
I'll throw Fenrir on my honorable mention list too, just because a giant wolf is always cool. I don't think he's super significant in all the Final Fantasies, but he certainly shows up in some of them. And again, 6 being my favorite, he shows up there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Ifrit's a classic. If I'm choosing, because to me, like the 2 or 3 main ones, when like as far as like in the entire series, is I'm thinking Shiva, Ramu, and Ifrit.
Me too.
So
they're the core ones. They're kind of like your starter Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally the elements, like almost like minus grass, like minus grass. But I do like. I would say probably like Shiva or Ramu more than Ifrit, but I mean Ifrit is always like pretty rad looking.
And of course, he sometimes takes a big role in 16, which makes him even cooler.
Yes,
but
exactly.
One that I'll throw on there too, which I think a lot of people would have in their top 5, but for me, just outside of it, because of a different one that has some sentimental value is. But an honorable mention for me is Phoenix. I think a lot of people have Phoenix higher. Yes. I do think Phoenix is very cool. And then Alexander, because I still don't know totally what Alexander is. He's like a city with wings. I think he's super cool.
So in 9, it's like actually I was watching somebody who's actually playing through it for the first time, like all the way through, and like they were like, oh, so like what's the deal with Alexander here? Like, are they the castle? Because in 9 it's like you have the Alexandria castle, and then suddenly like Alexander appears, but you actually do see the castle, and then like Alexander appears around it with the wings kind of like protecting.
Which, by the way, one of the coolest PlayStation 1 cutscenes ever created.
100%. Because like Bahamut's also involved in that whole thing.
Yes.
So, in that scene.
Alexander does something that most of the other summons could never do in that moment. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. So what about our top 5? I'll go first with my number 5. It's got to be, and this is mainly, it's not out of power. This is not the most powerful summon by any stretch, but I just loved it. Even though I didn't love this game that much, I still loved Quetzalcoatl from Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
I just thought the design was super cool. I love a good lightning power. So I just thought Quetzalcoatl was awesome. And I also liked saying Quetzalcoatl. I don't know. I just thought that was fun.
Quetzalcoatl. I think I said a Quetzalcoatl or something as a kid.
I think I changed it every time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to say it either. It was a cool word, and they didn't do voice acting, I don't think. At least they didn't say Quetzalcoatl that I can remember.
In 8, no. Yeah. Because that's the only one it appears in, I'm pretty sure. If not an earlier one.
So that's my number 5. And
it was lightning a lot, or
I do love some lightning. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You'll see that at number 4 too. But what would be your number 5?
Yeah. So like off the cuff, these aren't in any particular order except for number 1. I know what my favorite summon is.
Okay.
But you just mentioned Alexander. I've always thought Alexander, because he's just like this. He's like just this like mech thing, robot, like kind of like structure that has like these cannons that come out of it, and it's Alexander is holy based, so he literally fires like these holy like freaking beams of like destruction out of his cannons, and it just like pelts the enemy. And like Alexander is like one of those that doesn't pop up too much, but should, because he's just sick. He just always looks so.
Is that from real mythology somewhere, Alex? A lot of these are, but not all of them.
Yeah. It might be. I mean, I'm wondering if it's based off of like just like Knights of the Round type of like that sort of thing, but like, but kind of like come to life, like some kind of castle.
Crazy. Like, let's just. What if he's a fortress with wings and he does lightning? It's like, or holy damage. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Why
it's just
not?
a concept. So I've
like
always
maybe
thought
it's almost like he is heaven. I don't know. Something about like a golden city with wings around it, and he does holy damage.
The wings thing I think is more prominent in 9. I can't think of the other ones if he has wings in it, but 9 is
true.
Yeah, in that one particular scene where he has the wings that comes up to like protect the castle.
Yeah, in 6 he looks like a giant mech with big like kind of gorilla arms that come down on the front. Not so much with the wings in 6, but all right. So for me, number 4, sticking with the lightning theme, at least for this one, is Ramu, or however you say it, Ramu. Anyway. And that's from all the Final Fantasy games. I don't really care if he's the strongest or not. I've just always thought he was cool. Certain games, he's like I remember, for all the hate this game gets, Ramu in 15 was awesome.
100%.
So,
yeah.
He was super cool in 15. But anyway, his summon's always cool. Like, who doesn't like an old dude with a super long white beard calling down lightning from the heavens with his staff? Like, it just looks awesome. So I love Ramu.
Like old god man that comes down and just decimates everything with massive amounts of lightning. Like,
and he's a character that actually has dialogue in the 6. So he like actually talked, like, so he's I don't know, he's like an intelligent summon too. So there's a little different. He's not just this mindless monster that goes after what you point towards. Like, I don't know, something to him.
Do you?
Yeah,
because you recruit him in like a forest, and he actually makes you do like this little kind of like thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. You have to like do a puzzle or something?
Yeah, there's like these things that you have to like piece together like this like story, or I forget what it is.
Yeah.
Something like a story or a poem or something, and you have to put it in the right order. But he's like talking to you and
trying
to save guard.
There you go. So what about you? What would be a 4th one for you? Again, not in any super particular order, but
so obviously, I'm a little biased here, for obvious reasons. The Chocobo's summoned sometimes. What I love particularly with, say, Final Fantasy VII's is you get a little bit of a halvesies there, where sometimes you get the Chocobo comes running out with the Moogle on his back, just pummels into the enemy, and then the Moogle falls off, and it's just funny, whatever. Or you get the fat Chocobo that comes out,
fat Chocobo
lands on the enemy. So it's like you get a little, which one is it going to be? Which one's it going to be? So I love that, of just like, like the fun of that, of which one. But yeah, just having Chocobo be a summon sometimes I think is just really fun, because it's also one of the main things in the series. You ride them usually. So
yep. Yeah, I like that. I didn't even think about Chocobo as a summon. That's a really good call. Super charming, always fun to summon. I use them a lot in 16 actually.
Yeah. In
7
remake.
in 7 Rebirth.
Rebirth and remake, because
in remake,
because when you don't get the fat one in remake and rebirth, it's actually like when he does like the ultimate attack, they like all come from like there's a bunch of them that come from all sides, and just kind of like
they don't have them in 16 as summons, right? They're just there as like creatures to ride around. Yeah. So it was in Rebirth that I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right, for me, number 3 is gonna have to be, and I used to always pronounce it as Ifrit until I heard Clive say, "To me, Ifrit," and I was like, "Yeah, Ifrit sounds much cooler." But anyway, he's just awesome. He just looks like a demon fire thing, like a Balrog sort of, and his Hellfire move always was just the coolest thing ever. Let me just spike this giant flame volleyball down into the enemies. It was just cool, man. I love that. So everything about him, his design, how angry he always is, and then of course 16 helps solidify like he's just awesome. You got to control him a lot in that game, and I thought it was great. So yeah, he's my 3rd favorite. And that kind of solidified it for me.
I always said Ifrit. Like even when it's like actually spelt Ifrit, like EFREET. Because I think early on in the series it was like spelt that way when he would pop up, and then they switched it to like IFRIT.
Okay, it looks cool with the eyes.
Yeah, either way is that's a classic. Yeah, it's a classic
for sure. What would be a number 3 for you?
Another classic. So we're getting all 3 of the prongs here, Tim. I will say Shiva.
Shiva, yeah.
When it comes to like elements and stuff, like even like with Pokemon, for example, like I'm a big like water starter Pokemon, like the water Pokemon starter, or ice. I'm a big fan of like in RPGs, like using ice. Like if you give me an ice spell, I Blizzard, Blizzaga, I love just pummeling enemies with the ice. So yeah, Shiva's just always been like literally cool. She's literally cool, Tim. But like
she's blue.
Sometimes, she blue. Sometimes she has a little bit extra sass to her. Like in 10, she kind of has like the sassy pose to her, and then when she does her diamond dust, she does like the sassy snap.
The snap, that's right.
Yeah, she does that snap, and then the ice shatters and does the damage. But yeah, she was just always I think she's just always been cool.
She's very heroic summon. She seems to like always be in her position of being a hero for one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, she has that kind of energy about her. Yeah, and 15s is like a whole there's like a whole posse of them. She's like split up into multiple like Shivas. But yeah, I just have always thought Shiva's
I like Shiva. All right, for my number 2, might be a little controversial not to have this number 1, but for me number 2 has got to be Knights of the Round from Final Fantasy VII. And that's not because of anything specific about the characters that are involved with Knights of the Round, although they're cool. It doesn't really play too, as far as I know. Maybe you know this better than I do, Dan. I don't know that it plays into the lore or the world or what's happening in Final Fantasy VII really at all. Maybe it does, but it's one of the coolest, most epic summon animations I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the journey to get it.
Oh, yeah.
It's lengthy, but it's so satisfying when you finally get it and you get that materia and you equip it and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, we're about to summon it in this battle. And it was just such a good feeling. So the epicness around getting it, and then of course the epicness of the actual summon, and it is incredibly powerful too. So that helps make it really awesome. So
yeah, there's no lore in OG7 pertaining to it, but I'm sure in part 3 of the remake trilogy, they'll probably definitely
have something
expand. For it. Yeah, they'll expand on that. They might actually, without getting into it, because I don't actually even remember the details. I'm pretty sure there actually is something in remake that like alludes to them. So,
oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, dude, there's so much going on in both of those games. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an Easter egg that I totally missed.
But I'm pretty sure there was something that kind of like alluded to that. So
nice. What about you for number 2? Because you're not going to reveal the number 1 yet. What's your number 2?
Knights of the Round actually would be on that list, but I already started making the list because Knights of the Round is just sick. It's just obvious. That's so just
cool.
Yeah, it's just cool. But I just for the sake of being different, these 2 will be different. But yeah, Knights of the Round like absolutely would be on there for sure. So we're gonna go. What is it? Because I feel like I always say it wrong because I think it's a U instead of an A. Anima from Final Fantasy X. Do you remember this one?
Oh, it's like chained up.
Yeah, so it's very much story-wise connected to Seymour, who's the villain. Well, he's like one of the villains. You could say one of the villains within the game. But there's like a very story-centric, like very like main big connection of Ultima and Seymour. But yeah, he's like this like just demon thing that's like all wrapped up.
It's like in a straitjacket.
Yeah, almost like sort of like a fleshy straitjacket with chains around it, and he like I don't even know what to call it, but when he like almost kind of like does this blink thing, he does this like sort of like dark sort of like I don't even know what you would even call it, but like it basically is attacking with its eye, which it's actually bleeding too, which is like sick but also like demented. Yeah. And then its ultimate attack is literally like he's doing some stuff, and then like the enemy gets dragged down into almost what looks like hell, which is underneath Anima, and then there's actually like another part of like its body, which is like a separate being that has like arms, and it just freaking unleashes this like freaking like onslaught of punches on it. Like he's literally with his ass punching the enemy, like with his ass arms, like punching the enemy in like this like other dimension that he gets dragged down into. So like, yeah, Anima is just a sick ass summon, dude. Like it's just like it's so metal. Like that summon is just very metal.
Looks, yeah, you're right. Like even just the design of it, and with like the blood coming out of its eyes or whatever.
Yeah, and he almost sort of has a mohawk a bit too.
It looks like a CD cover from like mid 90s, you know what I mean? Like I mean that as a compliment, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that one's always and just like how it's tied into the story too is like pretty tragic. And interesting.
Honestly, I gotta tell you, I forgot that. Sorry if you haven't played 10, but I remember. I'm pretty sure I remembered fighting against it, and I forgot that you get it as a summon. I thought you fought against it at one way, shape, or form.
I think that's. I could be wrong, but I think you do have to do a side quest to get him. So maybe you do have to fight him. It's been so long since I've actually.
Maybe I never did that. Anyway, I haven't. I need to replay 10. I've heard the remasters are actually really good quality of life stuff for that game too. Anyway, I need to revisit 10, and I never did finish 10-2. Did they make 10-3? I never played 10-3. Did they play? 10-3?
Well, so there's like. there's
I played
like
some of 10-2, and it is a little bit like dress up, but it is a legitimately well-made RPG. It's just got some vibes that maybe aren't for everybody.
It's like it's fine. It's just not what you would expect. Like after playing 10, like and then you go into that, you're like, oh, this is a very different.
Oh yeah, if you fire it up right away, it's a letdown. I played it years after 10 and thought, oh, this is okay. I'm having fun with this. But yeah, right after the emotional highs and lows of 10, it's a weird juxtaposition.
But the person who I forget his name, the writer of 10, like wrote like what would be like the story of 10-3, and people fucking hate it too. There's stuff in there, and it's almost like so weird that it's like, did he do this on purpose just to kind of be like, I'm not doing a 10-3, so I'm gonna write like a terrible thing so people can leave me alone about it. Like,
got it.
It's pretty bad. So
all right, well, that's good to know. All right, my number one favorite Final Fantasy summon of all time, and I won't say a ton about it, just in case ours is the same. It's got to be Bahamut.
Okay, yeah.
He's a gigantic, always awesomely designed, and oftentimes like varied between games. His wings, when they totally open up, look amazing. His attacks always are animated in the coolest ways. And in not all the games, some of the games he's just Bahamut and he has his attack and that's it. But in a lot of them, he's significant to the story, or at the very least, there's upgraded versions of him or multiple versions of him, or he, whatever, goes Super Saiyan, basically. Like whatever his thing is, he upgrades, you know, so. And then similar to Ifrit, where after playing 16, I was like, man, I like this summon even more. So what happens with Bahamut in 16, I just think just elevates the awesomeness of that creature, that character, that whatever it is. It's awesome. So I love Bahamut. That's one of the first ones I think of whenever I picture a Final Fantasy summon. You're right. There are kind of your core 3 that are your starter Pokemon, kind of as it were, your starter summons, and they're iconic without a doubt. You can make an argument for any of them being the most iconic. But for me, I think of Bahamut as like the peak of the summons. I just have always thought of it that way. So
he's the king of dragons, like basically.
He's
like,
literally the king of dragons, yeah.
But yeah, he's so also number one for me. Shame on me though. I had these in my head and then I just like completely forgot as honorable mentions. Both from Final Fantasy VIII, Diablos and Doom Train. I completely forgot about those.
Doom Train.
Like, dude, like literally just like a train from hell, like has like
just
a skeleton.
It's everything.
And it just, it literally just the train tracks come up and he's just like, and then just like pummels it. But like, it's just so cool. It's just like, and I think that's like the only one that he pops up in. I'm so bad at like remembering which ones, because they might be older ones, but I think
Diablos. I don't remember that
Diablos. Diablos is also an optional one in 10, where there's an item that you get that you have to get, and then like you actually, if you click on the item, he's like within it, almost like a genie lamp, and then you get sucked into it, and you have to fight him, and if you beat him, then you unlock him.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, he's just like, he just looks like a demon with like wings, and he's like red and black, and he just looks super sick. He was in 6, Final Fantasy 6.
Oh, okay, nice.
But yeah, 8 is the main one that I know him from. But yeah, just those two honorable mentions, I completely forgot. Like I had them all tabbed up. Like, yeah, I know I'm gonna mention these, and then I forgot.
You know what? I forgot one from 6 that I'll mention in a second. But what were you gonna say about Bahamut being your favorite one?
Oh, so yeah, Bahamut, always a big fan. I have been a big fan, but specifically in 7, because there's 3 different materias of 3 different kinds of Bahamuts in 7, which is like, if you love Bahamut, it's like you get 3 of them in one game. Like, that's so freaking awesome.
That's amazing.
So you get like regular Bahamut, and then it's shoot, what is the red one? Oh, god damn it. Why am I suddenly forgetting the red one? Dude, I have such a terrible memory.
Like flame? No.
No, because the main one that I like is Bahamut 0, which is the last one.
Was there Neo Bahamut? No.
Yeah, I think it's Neo Bahamut. Neo Bahamut, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like a bit chonkier. Like his wings like are chonky too, but he still looks really sick. He's like the middle one that you get. And he's like red and black, almost like Diablos. But yeah, like Bahamut 0 is like almost like a machine. He almost has like a little bit of a mechanical look to him, mixed with like what would be like an actual organic dragon. But like, and it's Terra Flare. I was saying Tetra Flare earlier. Terra Flare.
Okay.
Is what Bahamut 0 does. And literally, like, he's up in space. Like, the animation of Bahamut is like he's up in space looking down at Gaia, which is the name of the planet in 7. And he just fires the beam down from space down at the enemies. Like, it's just so rad, dude.
I feel like every time they're like, how can we make Bahamut bigger and crazier? Like, well, if he could go to space and shoot down at the Earth. Like, let's just Fast and Furious this thing. Let's make it crazier every time. You know what I mean?
Hey, space and Bahamut seems to be a common thing. Wink, wink, Tim.
That's true. You guys got to play 16. You guys got to play 16.
So, Bahamut 0 has always been my favorite. So,
yeah. No, it's a good pick. Yeah. One honorable mention I forgot to mention. I think it's only in 6, although you know the Final Fantasy games better than I do, of course. Was Ragnarok was in 6. And I didn't know it was a summon until multiple playthroughs, because in Locke's storyline, he's the thief character in Final Fantasy VI. He kind of looks like the main character, but he sort of is, but not really. It's like him and Terra, but also it's really a good like combination of folks who are the main characters. But anyway, there's a storyline with Locke where you get to pick between the weapon or the esper. And I remember picking the weapon because I was like, I want the sword. And the sword's awesome. The Ragnarok sword is just amazing. It's super powerful. But if you pick the esper, which I actually didn't use to its full potential, apparently. I've read about it since then.
Okay.
So it's a sword. You actually summon a sword. And I can't remember what the percentage chance is, but it can turn enemies into items. Oftentimes, you can use it to farm for rare items. So it's one of those utility espers you can use that is really great for finding rare stuff. And there might even be, I think there's certain items you can only get through that method. So it's one of those things where on certain playthroughs, you got to pick the esper version of Ragnarok.
Major rewards for getting this rare, like hard to find. So see, I love that, Tim. Yeah. I love that.
Final Fantasy games are the best, dude. I'm sorry, they just are. They're the best.
Yeah, that's the only one that I'm pretty sure that Ragnarok is a summon in, because there's a reference to it in 8. You get the airship, the Ragnarok, which is like one of the sickest airships, by the way.
Okay.
In the entire series. So that's probably like an homage to Ragnarok in 6. But
all right, well, Dan, tell me what you think about this list from Game Rant, and this is from 2023, so it was just from last year. So they decided to make a list of the most powerful summons in the Final Fantasy franchise. So tell me,
people love doing these conversations. Which one has the high, like the Dragon Ball Z? Like
which one has the power rating or whatever? So let's just go through. It's 13 of them. Number 13, Eden from Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh my god. Dude, Eden. Tim, that summon, are you familiar with that summon or?
I recognize the little screenshot from it, but again, I never finished 8, but I watched my friend play it for a long time.
Yeah. 8 is like Eden is the ultimate summon that you get in 8. You have to do this particular side quest in order to get it. And it's like literally the entire thing is like, I swear to God, like 10 minutes. It's literally like 10 minutes long, maybe even longer. It might even potentially be longer, but it's at least like 10 minutes, like the whole animation.
But apparently it like can unlock the full potential of your character's strength too, I guess, if you junction with it. That's what this description says.
Because in 8, you're when you get the summons, there's all like the kind of different like abilities and like things that you can unlock to like add and like equip and junction to your characters. Yeah. So Eden probably has some like really solid stuff. I don't remember off the top of my head what they are, but yeah.
It says you can boost your damage. Okay. Of how long the summon is. Oh, that's right. You tap the button in 8, right? Don't you?
Well, yeah, you did the boost, which you have a pretty large window with Eden to get the boost all the way up. So because of how long it is, I'm actually Googling how long. How long is? Hold on, everybody. It also is the game has the game. Oh, so the game's longest 72.6 seconds.
That's a lengthy cutscene, man.
I feel like it's like 10 minutes long. I guess it was not 10 minutes long. Apparently, as a kid, it felt like an eternity.
Yeah, but you're like, come on.
It's literally over a minute long, but.
All right, so that one's ranked at 13. By the way, they're saying all 13 of these are super powerful. They're just listing what they think are the top 13. Number 12, they have a specific version of Diabolos.
Yeah.
And it's the one from Final Fantasy Type 0.
Oh, okay.
And they said that not most powerful in terms of like instant raw damage, but he sticks around longer and can heal himself. So I guess when you summon him, he sticks around for a longer time and can like use this gravitational ball that drains their health. So anyway, people consider it very powerful.
I've only played Type 0 once, so I don't remember what summons were in that.
So there you go. And then we've got number 11. They have from Final Fantasy IX, Arc.
Oh yes, man. That one is the Eden of Final Fantasy IX.
So like there was Knights of the Round for 7, then you had Eden for 8, and you had Arc for 9. I think was kind of like the
is Arc in.
This says it's nearly 2 minutes attack time.
All right, so this one's actually longer than Eden. I don't know why I thought Eden was like 10 minutes. Apparently, I was really exaggerating. Yeah, so the full attack is almost 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yep. That is crazy. It receives a boost to its spell power for every unit of lapis lazuli in your inventory.
Oh yeah, that is true. I remember hearing about that.
That's a cool little like secret thing. That's neat. I like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's pretty rad.
They said it's locked behind 2 of the toughest bosses in the game, though, so not many people get that one.
Yep.
All right. The version of this particular summon, they're saying also from Final Fantasy IX, the most powerful version is in 9, and that is Odin. He, of course, has been in a number of Final Fantasy games, but they think, according to this list from GameRant, that the most powerful version was in 9. They're saying if you have 99 ore in your inventory, then you boost his chance of instant kill to 50% with Zantetsuken, however you say that. So anyway, it becomes a coin flip if you have ore in your inventory. So that's pretty cool.
I like that. I like that in 9. Yeah, they like, hey, if you got this stuff in your inventory, then you're boosting up your summons. I think that's cool.
His design is also friggin' awesome in 9.
Yeah,
he looks super cool.
Yeah.
All right, you mentioned this rank number 9. You mentioned these 3 sisters, the Magus sisters.
Yep.
So you've got Cindy, Mindy, and Sandy.
Yep.
But they can damage enemies, heal the party, and buff everybody. So the delta attack.
They're really cool because like when you in summons in 10, you actually bring them out and they like play like a character. They have an attack, magic, like so on and so forth. But like
that was the first time they did that, I think, right? Was in 10?
Yeah, because they're like on the field and like Yuna is standing beside the summon or the Aeon, and like you're treating it like it's a party member, so to speak, within the menus, like but like having the Magus sisters, like you have 3 characters, so it's almost like having the party that you have normally, but it's summons, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So.
All right, then they've got at number 8. They have my boy Ramu from Final Fantasy 15, like we discussed.
There you go.
They're saying that's probably the most powerful version of him because usually in other versions he's kind of quickly passed by later game summons, but in 15 he's one you'll keep using if you like him. He does really good damage throughout the whole game. There you go. And they said the frequency of which you can use the summon makes him the highest kind of DPS dealer.
Yeah, because in 15 it's random. That's the only annoying thing about summons in 15. It's like it's basically kind of like a Hail Mary, and your team's kind of getting a bit wrecked. And
they were called Astrals in 15.
Oh, were they Astrals? Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember.
Right? But I forgot that.
It depended on like where you were on the field, like what you were fighting near. Like if you weren't near water, you wouldn't get Leviathan to come out.
Yeah.
So you actually like be near water and stuff like that.
Okay. All right, number 7, they have your boy Anima from Final Fantasy X. Of course, like they're describing what you said, the tragic backstory, one of the most powerful summons in 10. Its Pain attack, it's called Pain, can outright kill most opponents.
The eyeball, flashy eyeball move.
Yeah, it'll just like pretty much one-shot most opponents because it bypasses any resistances or defenses they have. That's crazy. Her signature move, Oblivion, is also devastating. It's a 16-hit combo. In the remastered game, each hit can deal a max of 99,999 damage. So if every hit is perfect, she can deal a little over 1.5 million points of damage in one move. That's crazy.
Yeah. Your ass fist just doing 1 million damage.
That is bonkers. All right. At number 6, we've got Bahamut from Final Fantasy 16. Of course, the most powerful icon, arguably, I'd say the most powerful icon from 16. You could probably make a case for other ones. Yeah, the element of light can easily take out groups. I love the abilities that Clive gets with Bahamut. I thought they were awesome. So, agree with that one. This one I'm not familiar with because I only played the first Final Fantasy Tactics Advance game, but this is from Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift. And it's a summon called Shemhazai.
Yeah. So Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy 12, they have their own very different. I forget what they're called.
They're called Scions in this one.
Scions, okay. They're called something else in 12. I think.
Okay.
Espers. They're Espers in 12.
Okay.
That they call Scions. Yeah, but they have like, because Ivalice is like almost like its very own separate thing. It's like they have their own lore and like kind of like stuff going on that their summons just feel very different than what is the traditional, like what you see in the rest of the series. But that makes it unique and I think interesting.
So the description here sounds amazing. Now I kind of want to play this game. So she has one attack called Soul Purge. It's 100% accuracy. It can't miss. But its damage is completely based on the character that summons it. So if the character has been around for a while and fought many enemies and dealt a lot of damage, the damage they've dealt over the course of the entire game determines how much damage that she'll do. So she can, with the right character that's been through the stuff for most of the game, she can just one hit kill just about anything.
What is that?
That's called Shemhazai. She looks cool. She's got like a cape, almost looks like a wing with this picture. Has like these blades. She looks cool. She's got a cool mask.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
the like, yeah, the sort of like logic of how the damage works is.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, now we're to one of the ones you've described a couple times. Specifically, this version's from Final Fantasy Type 0, but I think it applies elsewhere too. Bahamut Zero.
Ah, yes, there we go.
Yeah, it's got this brutal breath attack, Mega Flare. But when it's fully charged, especially in Type 0, it becomes Giga Flare. And then when that's fully charged, it becomes Terra Flare. Oh my gosh.
I guess you have to charge it up and Type 0.
Yeah.
That's not
his power level's increasing. All right. Number 3, we've got Phoenix. And they specifically call it the one from Final Fantasy 7. Let's see. They say it's a strong contender for the strongest in the whole franchise. They think it's easily the best of 7, the original 7. Because of Rebirth Flame, that does massive fire damage to every opponent on the battlefield, but also revives all downed party members, which is great.
True.
So yeah, I think that's basically the only surviving party member can be the summoner. Yeah, that's true. So it has to work out for you. You have to have the right setup and plan ahead for that person to survive.
But if you have, if your last team member that's up has, Phoenix, and then you just revive
then that
it.
completely flips the game at that point. That the whole fight that you would have had to restart totally changes. All right. Also for Final Fantasy VII at number 2, they have Knights of the Round.
Yes. Of course.
They're absolute beasts in combat. This picture of them looks way cooler than I even remember. I can't wait to see what they do with the new games.
Like, I can't even imagine, dude. I can't even imagine with how they've done like the summons look really rad in Remake and Rebirth.
They do.
So I just, having a posse of like 13 knights floating around is going to be absurd. I feel like it's just going to be complete madness. Like, I don't even know.
They said, other than like final boss and, some of the powerful optional weapon enemies, for the most part, it's a one-hit wonder, which makes sense because the MP cost is ridiculous and the animation time is atrocious. I don't remember how long it is, but it is a long animation.
Let's do it again.
Do it again. All right, that was number 2. Number 1, one that you called out that I've forgotten about, Yojimbo from Final Fantasy X.
There you go.
They said that it's by far the strongest, mainly because of how you can power it up with enough gil. So if you have enough money, then if you're willing to spend hundreds of thousands of gil for services, and I guess there's a complex formula outside of just the money, but with the right money and a bit of luck, then his damage is insane. And that includes against final bosses and secret bosses and so on.
Exactly. So that's kind of like within the streaming community, because I never used Yojimbo a whole ton, so I learned more about him through streamers. But yeah, like doing the right things, like people basically are like, that's not legitimate, you're cheesing it because you just use Yojimbo, blah blah
okay.
blah. Which is like whatever, I don't really care. Do whatever you want to do. But yeah, you can basically just hurl money at this too, and he's like, I got you.
I got you. Thanks for the money.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
So that's fun. I like that. I think that's a pretty solid list they put together over at Game Rant, as far as like most powerful.
I like the thought they put behind it, trying to kind of evaluate the power levels.
It's the best way to do it because the game doesn't tell you power levels. You just kind of have to guess. I guess some games they do level up, but for the most part, you don't know. Yeah. Some games, especially the, I guess they do this later too, but you get stronger and you can learn moves and increase your stats by having them equipped or synced up with you, whether it's the junction system or certainly espers and 6. You power up your characters and can learn magic moves depending on who you have equipped and kind of like building up their AP meter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because in 10 you can be leveling them up. In 8 you're leveling them up. So
that's cool.
I like that little extra element too. Yeah,
I agree. So hey, I think it's safe to say the summons in Final Fantasy pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah, they're definitely up there. They're maybe even top 3. Some would say.
Top 3 Final Fantasy things. I think that is absolutely fair to say. Well, listen, I wanted to talk about a few headlines before we wrapped up this episode that I had to kick Kyle off of. Again, Kyle, you know what I mean? Like,
he missed a good one too. We did the Final Fantasy summons there. Like he missed.
He would have really liked that because he probably has some thoughts. He loves all the Final Fantasy summons too. But whatever, you know what? When you are disrespectful the way he was, that's what happens. So anyway, by the way, anyone who can't pick up on it, I'm not being serious. Okay. So there are some stories that happened over the last week or so that I think are interesting. We'll end it on a really like positive note. A lot of times headlines can be super negative, so we'll wrap it up on a super positive note. So not all these are negative, by the way, but it can feel that way sometimes. So here we go. One of the best names in the voice acting business, Doug Cockle. He's the voice of Geralt from The Witcher. Oh, yes. He's also the narrator from games like Tales of Iron, which is awesome. And he's done some other voices too. But he was featured in an interview where he commented on how the game's in development at CD Projekt Red, the 4th game is, and all but confirmed that the game will feature Geralt in the game, but he will not be the star or the central character of the game, which I think is probably the right way to do it. I think if you want that series to continue. Now, I would actually be fine if they made 6 more games that all starred Geralt. That's fine with me. Like, no problem. I got no problem with that. But I also think it's kind of smart and healthy. Like, I still think the Uncharted games should come back and have Nate pass the baton somehow. Nathan Drake pass the baton. But
it's a very easy way they could do that without being specific. But
I agree. They've already kind of set it up that way. But anyway. So anyway, that's cool. I'm glad that, first of all, I'm glad Witcher 4 is certainly happening. I can't wait to see what they do with it. And I could be wrong. I get the feeling it'll be a create your own character, kind of like V. Speaking of V, right? That was the theme earlier. Kind of like V from Cyberpunk.
Sure.
I could see them doing that here.
Forgot to name the V Pokemon, the V summon.
We did.
Valor from Final Fantasy X. It's the very first one that you get. So that's the one that when Yuna comes out, it's the first summon that when she's going to start her pilgrimage.
Oh, got it.
It's kind of like that bird thing.
Yeah. That's probably why I didn't use it a ton, because after a while you get some stronger ones, and then you're like,
oh yeah. First summon. So, but yeah.
Is that the one with like the water cutscene and stuff? Or no, that's different. That's just her doing magic.
That's a separate moment. Yeah, when Kilika gets just decimated.
Dude, I haven't played that game in so long. All right. So that's good news that Witcher 4 is happening. Geralt is going to be around, just not at the center.
Very interesting.
I'm going to predict that they're going to have a create your own character, your own Witcher type approach to this one. Could be wrong, but it'll be like a neutral name that could be whatever character you create. Man, woman, or something in between, some weird combat, like when Jeff likes to create characters to look like crazy clowns or whatever. Like whatever it is you want it to look like, it'll probably have a generic name. Not unlike V, that kind of just works, but I could be wrong. We'll see what happens there.
I'm still wondering if they're doing the Ciri thing, unless they have confirmed. No, Ciri is not the main one, but
yeah, I don't know. They have not confirmed. Could be Ciri. I'd be totally down with Ciri as the lead. She'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So we know you guys talked last week, I think, about Bungie with their layoffs.
Yeah.
Things are not good across the industry. We know that there's been a lot of layoffs this year. And then a lot of companies that were acquired with high hopes and big promises and huge announcements have just had such a rough go of it. And Bungie's one of those. But this is according to Jason Schreier. So take it with a grain of salt. If you don't trust his reporting for Bloomberg, fine. But this is according to him. The sentiment around Marathon, that project from Bungie, is not great, he claims. So he was on a podcast and they were asking him for a temperature check on Marathon because it's been really quiet since they announced it. And he says, not great from what I've heard. There's a reason that it was planned for this year and slipped a whole year. And people that I've talked to are a little pessimistic about it even hitting its current planned deadline. But we'll see. I don't know exactly when that is. Sometime in 2025. I'm not sure. But yeah, the sentiment I've heard is not great, at least as of a few months ago. So
yeah. Not great stuff going on with Bungie lately. So,
which is a bummer because that expansion it was well received. I think the latest
Final Shape.
Yeah.
I
think it was pretty well received. But anyway, all right, back to something positive. Remedy, we all love Remedy. Alan Wake 2 was wild, and I'm very excited for their DLC this fall. I'm excited to see what they do with that. But they currently have 3 projects in production. I believe they have a new IP too, but we're talking mainly about Max Payne 1 and 2 remake. It's in full production. It's happening, and apparently they're doing a lot with this thing. Like, it's going to be a no-joke remake. And then Control 2 is already in a full playable state, which is super exciting. So that's good news.
And so this was the thing that we kept trying to like. This was the first story that Kyle and I were trying to like, and then the internet problems. But
you mean I kicked you off? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But like basically mentioning how the voice, it's a shame and like kind of wondering what they're doing because the voice actor of Max Payne passed away, right? So I'm wondering, I don't know, like, did he do the VO for that, or do they have to get somebody else? Like, I'm wondering what they're doing.
What would you do in their shoes? Would you just recast it and try to get someone close to his likeness as possible?
I mean, like I don't know how long this project's been in like development, so it's like if they've already done all the VO, then why waste that? Because then like it's not like they're gonna remake 3, right? Because 3 is like feels kind of like a weird different thing, but it is connected, right?
It was a different thing, yeah. They could take what he's done and then use AI to create almost you wouldn't be able to tell with the way AI can do voices these days. I could see them doing something like that.
Or I mean, or you find someone that can do very similar.
Or someone that sounds like them. Yeah.
Give somebody a chance and see if they can do that voice and try to get it as close as possible. So.
Yeah. I think I do think as long as they have the rights to his voice likeness and maybe his family or whoever, his estate, whatever it is compensated appropriately and accredited appropriately, I think the idea of using some AI technology is kind of an interesting one to try, at least just to see like, hey, does this work? Does it?
You mentioned AI, and I know people definitely pull back with that.
I know, but it's happening, man. It's already happening more times than we probably realize.
Oh, for sure.
By the way, there are some like NPC characters that'll talk in a game. Like, you should have just used AI. That was bad. Like, I don't know. Did you get like your nephew to come in and do a line? Like, that was real bad.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with that, because then that gives them more of the onus to do something like that. But it's like, but we really should have people like doing.
I know.
It's tough.
I agree completely. I don't want AI to do Doug Cockle's voice for Geralt. Like, I want him to do it.
Yeah.
But at some point in life down the road, he won't be around anymore or able to do the voice anymore. But I love Geralt's voice. I don't know if I want to hear Liam Hemsworth come in and do it.
Oh, poor Liam. Poor Liam.
Liam Mesworth, huh?
Yeah, it's very.
By the way, really quick aside, when I was on my trip this past week, one of those nights I kind of crashed into the hotel bed. It was really late, but I just needed to turn on something to watch for a few minutes. So I did watch some Olympics, which has been kind of fun. There's been some really exciting Olympic stuff. But I also was just channel surfing, which I don't do a lot. We don't usually have live TV at our house. It's all like the Netflix and on-demand stuff. But anyway, happened upon Expendables 2, I think. Or maybe I can't remember which one it was. But there's early on in that movie, Liam Hemsworth is in it. Yeah, I forgot that he was
totally
in it.
Forgot.
With Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah. And it's just this really cheesy, like, 90s moment where you give the good guys a reason for revenge kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Sure,
but it's just very funny to me. I was like, oh, look, it's the new Geralt. There he is.
Yeah, that's him. There you go.
Yeah. Listen, you're right. Nothing against that guy, but he is a little bit forgettable. I'm just saying, like, he's a little.
It just makes it more, I kind of feel bad for him because it makes it more of a challenge, because it's like he has his older bro who's freaking Thor,
and has so much personality.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and just nails that role. And then he's a good, but he is a good actor too. He does other things, and he's good in those too. So
yeah. So I agree. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Witcher show.
Interesting.
How that's gonna go. Interesting indeed. All right, the Borderlands movie. Speaking of live action stuff,
oh man,
Dan, I'm not gonna say that we told you so. Okay, I'm not gonna say that.
Sure.
I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, don't say it.
But I do think those of us on this podcast who have discussed this movie as it developed over a long period of time, and release date was unknown, and it was like they were released pictures of, and then the trailer came out. It was just like, I don't know. Well, now it's at a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm sorry, Tim. Did you say 9 single digits? 9?
9. Period. Not 19 or 90.
Right.
9. But the good news is that means, almost 10% of reviewers thought it wasn't trash. So that's pretty good.
Right. Almost 10.
Almost 10%. The audience score right now is at 50. And I glanced through that. A lot of people just kind of giving it 5 stars, saying like, "Oh, everyone hates it. It was fun." So it's like, you don't actually think it's a perfect movie, but you're giving it 5 to like boost it. And I'm on board with that. I'm fine with that. But I will say this, especially for our buddies Kyle and Jeff, who are more of the movie guys than you and I are. We enjoy a good movie, but they just watch a lot more than we do. Probably fair to say. They had a good chat about the Rebel Moon movies.
Oh, right. Yes.
And Rebel Moon is twice as good according to Rotten Tomatoes as Borderlands.
That says a lot. It
does say a lot. Just wanted to throw that out there for you. So it's at a 9%. I hope that the people that are in it, they are able to move on and make other things. People were in Cats and their careers moved on.
Yeah, they're fine. They're fine. Yeah, Kevin Hart's gonna be fine.
Kate Blanchett will always be one of the best.
Yeah,
People will always love her.
Yeah, Jack Black. I mean, well, things are kind of weird right now with Jack Black, but he'll probably be fine.
But I will say, I saw Jack Black on a couple of YouTube podcasts that I like to watch, like Bad Friends, and I saw him on the Coco. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. On the Coco channel, and he's just a good time. I love Jack Black.
Yeah.
Anyway, so even though he's doing promotion for this movie, you can tell even he's a little bit like, I don't know, man. He likes games. Like he's a gamer too. Maybe not an adamant gamer, but he likes games, and so anyway.
Well, he was mentioning, I saw something where he mentioned like I think Kate Blanchett was like, "Where are you? Like, where are you at, dude?"
It was from the Conan O'Brien thing. I think it was that one.
Okay.
Where they, one of the actors texted him like, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm done. Like, I already did all my.
I did my VO. Yeah. Like, but
so
also
it has nothing to do with him. Like, he did what he could with what's in front of him.
Yeah.
So.
But also, like, this was supposed to be apparently a rated R movie. I didn't realize it was PG-13.
Yeah, I think at some point the decision was made. This needs to have mass appeal, so kids who like video games, those kids who like games, can go see it. And it's like, okay, but the Borderlands games are rated M, and yes, kids like them for sure. But like, it's a more adult-focused audience that like the Borderlands games for sure. Yeah.
So basically, a bunch of dumb suits that don't know what the hell they're doing.
Even like the style of humor and the style of violence, I don't think it trends towards what kids like as much these days. It's a little bit like early 2000s, 2010s styles.
Yeah.
So
this probably would have gotten at least near Rebel Moon scores if it was rated R. If at least been closer to Rebel Moon.
You're probably right. It could have hit those Rebel Moon highs.
Yes, right. True.
Unlike stuff that's out recently, like Deadpool and Wolverine, which is at like a 78%, which is awesome.
Wait, 78?
Is 78%. Twisters, the sequel to Twisters, at 75. Those are good scores. Those are like certified fresh.
Deadpool and Wolverine deserve much more than 78. That's crazy.
You're not happy with that? That's not enough for you?
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Sorry to hear. I guess it's bad. It's not in the 90s, so it's bad.
Yeah, it's awful. It's unwatchable. Unwatchable.
That's my takeaway. Speaking of movies and movie companies, Warner Brothers Discovery, which one of their announcements, which I didn't put on here, but I'll just mention it. They did mention that they are exploring partnering with other studios for some of their IP for game creation. So I'm like, cool, do that.
Okay.
Do that. Get another Mad Max game made, because that game's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But they announced that its Q2 gaming revenue has fallen 41%. So they had a earnings result that were published on Wednesday, and all of its major segments, cinema, TV, and games, all saw a decrease, but games specifically were down 41%. And they actually called out Suicide Squad as one of the primary reasons. I mean, this is so funny to me.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad killed the profits this year.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of what it was. But the problem is, and I have dealt with a lot of analytics and data over the years, and when you look at, and this is just year over year, so it's a 41% drop from the year before. But the thing is, they had a bit of an anomaly last year. They had an undisputed but also unpredictable hit with Hogwarts Legacy. No one would have predicted that game was going to break sales records and dominate alongside games like Call of Duty and Madden. Like, no one would have guessed that, right? And it did, and it was a great game critically. Audiences loved it, and it sold like bonkers. It sold like crazy, and it never went on any of the streaming like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus services. I don't think, at least it did. So it was able to just be pure profit as this game just sold. We have 2 copies of it because my kids wanted to play it on a different console. Like, we are all in. I love this game. I think this game is a blast. So when you have a game like that, so all of your numbers on the charts go up. And we've talked about this before, Dan, where like companies just want everything to go up.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You should, as an analyst, look at that and say that is amazing. But our trend line actually should be way below that. So our goal for this year should be at the trend line where it was building before. And maybe we bump it a little bit, maybe because we are hopeful that sales will continue, or maybe our reputation as a game maker is bumped, like whatever. But My guess is that they're looking at it as a huge decrease because they were like, cool, that's our new normal. This new spike is our new normal. And I think that's the mistake that's made, in my opinion, is when you allow a unexpected, unpredictable, uncontrollable wave that you didn't do. It just happened to hit the culture at the right moment and it worked. It could have been a flop. It could have been a good game that no one bought, right? But
well, especially with hoopla, because
J.K. Rowling, all the controversy,
Yeah.
of course, around her. Absolutely could have been a flop, but it wasn't. It was a huge success, and so now this year looks like a huge decline. And here's the one thing, and I'll be hopeful, Dan, and tell me if you think this is too optimistic. I hope that they will look at this, and the suits who don't care, they never pick up a controller, they don't care about games, they just want the monies.
Sure.
I hope they'll be like, all right, we tried the live service thing with a super popular IP and everyone hated it. No one bought it.
Right.
We're not doing that anymore. Let's go back to the single player in-depth worlds. Like that's me being optimistic. That's what I want.
That's the thing. I feel like enough have died or just done not well that they would have learned. But I mean, also games take a while to make, so it's like for it to catch up to that point too, it's like were they just too deep into making this game where they kind of realized like, oh shit, like that was actually a bad move.
Possible.
I mean,
very possible.
But like, yeah, it's like you have a game that is connected to this universe, Batman universe that Rocksteady's been making that were popular and sold really well, and for the most part, altogether loved. Right? I know the third one is kind of like not as beloved as the first two, but still, people enjoyed it.
Yep.
So I mean, I'm sure that is probably also a carryover too of like, yeah, I mean, it's from these guys. They made the Batman.
Freaking Batman. I'm like, yeah, but it's the one that doesn't star him, so maybe.
Yeah.
Whatever, man.
It's you're playing as the villains killing these characters, like so.
Yeah.
With all the looter shooter BS crap live service nonsense. Yep. So. Yeah.
Listen, I like to think that we try to stay positive on this show, and when all four of us are around, and still hoping for that again someday, but when all four of us are around, most of us are pretty positive. I would say even our buddy Kyle might be the most optimistic. Like, yeah, people should enjoy whatever they enjoy, right? Like he's very much like everyone should be happy and enjoy their thing. But I think even I'm going to channel my inner Kyle here for a second. Even he would have to be like, yeah, no, that was a mistake. They shouldn't have done that. That was a disaster of a game.
Yeah.
That was a disaster.
100%. 100%.
And this is coming from, I think all of us were like, hey, Gotham Knights is actually pretty fun. People need to like chill out. It's not a 4. Like it's a pretty fun, it's a pretty solid game. Interesting premise with some fun powers. Like we were pretty positive on that game. All of us, I think. And,
you know why, Tim? Because it wasn't some dumb live service, built from the ground up to just suck up your money BS. Right. That's why,
It was a very competent, fun game in a cool world with some decent visuals and overall a good experience, in my opinion, as a game. And it still allowed some cool multiplayer stuff, but you could play it solo, which I liked. Okay. The Arcane founder, and I guess I hadn't pieced together when I saw this. It's like, oh, Arcane's gonna make something? No. This is the guy who was the president and co-creative director. His name was his last name was Colantonio. But anyway, about 5 years ago, he formed his new studio called Wolfeye Studios. Okay. And they're the ones who made Weird West a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and if you think about that game, it makes sense that former Arcane people made it. It wasn't quite up to snuff. It wasn't like a 8 or 9 out of 10, of course. But it's pretty solid first effort for a first studio effort, I think. Yeah. But anyway, they have teased their next game, and they are describing it as a first-person retro sci-fi RPG. And he says fans of the previous first-person games I was involved with, Dishonored and Prey specifically, will be very happy.
Ooh.
That's good.
Be happy. Please be excited.
Please be excited. Please clap. Excited. We need to get Jeb Bush in here.
Please clap.
Please clap.
We need more of that energy.
I think so too. So anyway, apparently, and I don't know if it might be a Gamescom thing. I think we're due for some announcements at Gamescom here in when is that? End of this month? Early next month?
It's August, right? Yeah, because September is Tokyo.
I think it's the next couple weeks. Yeah. So this could be one of those games that's revealed. I think we could get something from Remedy. Maybe we'll see more about their new IP that they're working on. Maybe we'll see some Max Payne 1 and 2 remake teaser or something. But So some of the stuff that we've talked about, I think we might get some sneak peeks at.
Keely will let us know soon if we need to chill out with our expectations or to be excited.
He will. He will. He'll be like, listen, we're gonna show some cool trailers, but nothing new or something. Like he'll tell us something like,
everyone just don't yell at me.
Kojima is not coming with Death Stranding 2, so shut up about it. Like hopefully he'll get ahead of those kind of things.
He'll let us know.
Star Wars Outlaws, which is only 2.5 weeks away, I think, till that game hits. That's the next big game from Ubisoft. Of course, it is the kind of open world / open area Star Wars game set between, I think it's between Empire and Jedi on the movie timeline, I think.
I believe so. So.
Releases on the 30th, but they've already talked about their story expansions. Now, I want to get this out of the way. I do believe that Ubisoft is very predatory in their practices when it comes to getting money from you.
When they say roadmap, it's like, okay, it's cool. So you're already planning out like how you're gonna try to suck more money out of us.
Ubisoft, but that being said, they do manage some of my favorite IPs, and they've created some games that I've enjoyed just incredibly over the years. Like absolutely. So it's not like one of those companies that I just wish stopped existing because they're so predatory and evil. But it's impossible to deny the fact that when you look at the season passes and the DLC and the add-ons and the little shop that's in every menu, like, okay, so I'm no like Ubisoft fanboy. That being said, this game looks super fun. People who are criticizing it, I think, just want to find something to complain about. I think it looks like a blast. I can't wait for it. I hope it's good, but it looks really good. But there's going to be story expansions. They're already planning story expansions for this. And if you have the season pass, which I don't, this is part of what I think Ubisoft does. It's a little bit sketchy sometimes, is buy the season pass before you even know what you're getting.
Right.
I think they've heard that loud and clear, and this is one way to address it. They're already telling us, here's what that's going to be. So they provided some details on what the story expansions will be. The first one is called Star Wars Outlaws Wild Card, and that'll launch this fall.
Wild Card.
Wild Card.
Is that from Sunny in Philadelphia?
Oh my god.
Wild Card.
Because Charlie's the wild card. You never know what he's gonna do.
So that's what this DLC is.
It's Charlie. It's Charlie Day coming in. But she's hired to infiltrate a high-stakes sabacc tournament, and she crosses paths with the notorious gambler Lando Calrissian, and soon learns there's another game being played. Bum bum bum. So that's the first one. There's going to be some cosmetic bundles, of course, released alongside the game's first story expansion, new outfits, blah, 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 with speeder and ship cosmetics. And then the second story expansion, which is scheduled for they're saying spring 2025, is called Star Wars Outlaws, A Pirate's Fortune, where she runs into veteran pirate Hondo Onaka and is looking to settle old scores with a ruthless gang of pirates. So I will say this, again, let's keep it Let's keep it positive. I think that's cool that they're actually like naming and describing, here's what the story expansions are going to look like.
That's what you should do.
That's what you should do. Unlike, something like Redfall, where you buy the season pass and it turns out they're making nothing because it's a failure and they're not doing anything. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
That is pretty rough. So I anticipate this will sell well. It might not be a Hogwarts Legacy style hit, but I think it's going to do well. I think the Star Wars IP still has some oomph to it. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, and this could be an absolute bomb. And Ubisoft is like, never mind, we're not making expansions. This thing, but I just don't think so. I think it will do really well, and at least I hope it will, because I'm excited for it.
It's the Star Wars IP, right? So it's going to. I feel like it's that alone carries a lot, even though
it does.
Lately, it feels very much like people are just like burn Star Wars to the ground, but then also it's the very opposite too. So
Well, I do think the medium matters. So if they announced the next Star Wars TV series right now for Disney Plus, people are going to write it off right away and won't even give it a chance, because I think they've burned some trust with a lot of people. And you might have a varied opinion on that. No problem. If you love what they're making, that's great. If you hate what they're making, that's great. I'm somewhere in the middle. I like some of it, don't like some of it. But I understand people who are like, nope, don't want to watch another TV show of Star Wars. I don't like them. I totally get that. But the games that in the Star Wars universe have been really good. So my hope is that the medium of video gaming in the Star Wars universe being so high quality, whether it was the Jedi Survivor and Final, what was that one?
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order. But also Squadrons, that space fighting game, that was really cool. So like, there's some cool Star Wars gaming IP that's out there. So I'm hoping that Outlaws continues that trend and doesn't let us down.
Hopefully the storytelling is good, because like for me, like it's like I'm a casual Star Wars fan. Like I think the storytelling in Fallen Order and Survivor are pretty great. I think the
very top tier
is told. It has like a good maturity to it, but then like there's moments of levity and like characters really interacting really well. So it's like almost like, hey, maybe just like have those people like write your shows then, because like,
dude, I agree. It had believable characters that I related to, empathized with. It even had a bit of a love story in the second one that wasn't a central part of it, but it was there, and I bought it. It had villains that I cared. That I was like, ooh, there's a twist. It had all the things, you know. So, it felt a little, not a little. It felt a lot Uncharted-y in its storytelling abilities. I'm not saying it's as good. Everybody, relax. But it felt that way. It had that vibe to it. Not many people can tell stories like Naughty Dog can, but it was in the same tier at least.
Oh yeah, there was definitely like a maturity there of like, and like, you know, like moments of like, something bad's about to happen, or kind of like being concerned about characters and I think they told their stories confidently, and I think I'm looking forward to see what they do with Outlaws. I hope they tell it with that same confidence. Hey, for all of its flaws as a game, the Avatar game did a really cool job of telling a story in the Avatar universe. I didn't finish it, but I played a good chunk of it. And it seemed like it was made by people who like the Avatar world. They like the creatures and the rules and the characters and it seems like they really liked it. So I have a feeling that this is going to be made with the same care. There you go. There's your positivity. Hey, let's wrap it up with a lot of positivity. For the first time this year, we have a company that has been saved from the despairing depths of being closed. This is not happening. We're back on the upswing.
We're back on the upswing. Everyone's getting hired now. Hire everybody back. One of the worst closures this year, in my opinion, just from my personal love of Hi-Fi Rush specifically, and my admiration for what's been done with the Evil Within games, even though those aren't my jam. I very much admire what they did with those games.
Big fan of those.
Tango Gameworks being shut down was a massive bummer, because I was like, it proves that all the hot air or the smoke being blown our way, whatever it is, was just lies about like, oh, if they just make good things, that's all we care about. We just want them to like make what they want to make, put passion behind it, make it really good. It didn't matter. It was truly about the P&L, the profits and loss at the end of the day.
It was straight up 100% bullshit.
It was indeed.
Exactly what it was.
But here comes a publisher I've never heard of before called Krafton. I've never heard of Krafton, but they are behind PUBG and Callisto Protocol, which, by the way, I would not think of either of those as current ongoing successes.
PUBG still lots of people still play PUBG.
I think PUBG is steady, right? It's just not like at the top of the charts.
It's not Fortnite numbers.
Exactly. So
it started all. So.
But you know what? They're making enough money to acquire Tango Gameworks. Now, I don't know what this means for all of the IP. There's a lot of details to be worked out, but they've already called out Hi-Fi Rush specifically in their news release. So they said they intend to collaborate with Xbox and ZeniMax to ensure a smooth transition and maintain continuity at Tango Gameworks, which, by the way, means they're trying to keep the entire team together to keep making stuff, which is...
I love that.
Dude, that makes me so happy, because there's been so much bad news around gaming employment this year, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
But they say specifically allowing the talented team to continue developing the Hi-Fi Rush IP and explore future projects. So we know for sure that means the Hi-Fi Rush IP is the reason behind it, is part of it. They want to explore that creative, think outside the box, high quality direction, right? Whether it's music or not, I think Krafton is like, make more of this stuff. This stuff is great.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means for Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, or whatever else IPs are under the Tango Gameworks. It might be just those two. But anyway, I don't know what it means for the rest. That being said, it sounds like the move from Microsoft to Krafton isn't going to impact any of the existing catalog. So it's not like those are going to get removed or whatever. It's more about what's coming up next. But hey, you know what? I'm not too worried about that right now. If it turns out Evil Within is still owned by Microsoft and they'll have to do something different, whatever. If they were to announce another like horror game adventure RPG that's not called Evil Within, but you knew it was them, I bet you'd be pumped for it. Like, give me the next whatever this is, right?
So I do. I hope something can be figured out with Evil Within 3, because I think the way that 2 ends, it is like, it kind of is like a neat bow, but but it isn't like I think there's something there where
You
it
want
kind of
more.
like, there is like still like the main suits need to be taken down. Like, there's the company that's still sort of like, there's someone there that needs to be taken down, and I want the conclusion.
It's Microsoft. Got it.
Yeah, dude, that would be fantastic if it was like somehow like, I don't know, large hard.
Yeah,
you know, whatever the opposite of
large
Microsoft.
hard. Or they bring in
right?
Spill Pencer as the main villain.
Yeah, and have 3 just conclude the story of Sebastian there, of 1 and 2, because I actually really love Evil Within 2. It's actually one of my favorite horror games.
It'd be a huge announcement. You know what I mean? Like, if next year, let's say, they announced kind of like in development Evil Within 3 and Crafton and Tango logos.
Yeah.
It would be one of those things that would help bolster any show that they would put it on, whether it's Summer Games Fest or whatever. But yeah, I would love to see Hi-Fi Rush continue. The speed at which they were able to develop that game and put it out gives me a lot of hope that if it's the same team, we could be seeing some Hi-Fi Rush spin-offs or full-on sequels sooner than we might think, because they were able to put that game together in remarkable amount of time.
I would love for this to. We're gonna keep this P train rolling, Tim. We're gonna keep this P train rolling.
Let's do it.
I want to see freaking an animated show, like get some like an actual like show or like something, like crank this shit up to freaking like get all the hype going with this, because like it has a really great world vibe. The color,
it'd be a great show. Yeah,
the music element attached to it. Get some.
It'd be a very funny, fun show. You're totally right about that.
With the music, and get some really like catchy, great music in there.
Yeah.
And throw that shit on Netflix or something. Just make the money off of it, because I think
I would watch a Hi-Fi Rush show.
I think that's what was so annoying about that, is like, this was like a first go, and it was a pretty excellent first go with this new IP. It just didn't make Call of Duty freaking money. So freaking, Microsoft over there with their dumb penny pinching nonsense. And they were just like, all right, listen, you guys made some really good stuff. Look at all your awards on your wall. That's great. Fantastic. You guys are so talented, but you got to go. And it's like, it's just gross. It was just so
I agree. I'm glad that there's publishers like Kraft, and there are probably others who probably could have maybe even inquired about getting Tango when they realized that whole studio is shutting down. Can we get them? I'm sure they weren't the only ones, but
I hope they all get to come back.
I'm glad they got it.
Then but
sometimes it needs to be a company like this that has their ongoing live service game rolling, so they have that steady income flow, and then you can work on other stuff. Yeah, like in Epic Games, so that way you have Fortnite pumping all the money in, and then you can make creative stuff. But anyway,
this made me like super happy. Like I literally was like reading in my house, and I was like, woo! I like literally check out. I was like, this is like,
and hey,
some good news. Like,
credit where credit's due. This is a weekend that we're recording this. The news broke over the weekend, and no other outlets had this. This was Polygon, which is fun to make fun of.
Sure,
it was a Polygon article.
Yeah, so that's good vibes, though.
Good job, Polygon. So let me look and see. Did any other companies cover it yet?
Well, I saw a tweet that I actually saw some random person.
Oh, it's up on IGN now.
Yeah. But I think some smaller sites were like also reading, because that's what I saw on Twitter. And then when I Googled it just to make sure it wasn't like a fake article, then I saw Polygon and everything, and I was like, oh shit. And that's when I shared it with you guys. But I don't know, it just makes me so happy, just because like they just didn't deserve what happened to them. I think that's just a really fun studio. I mean, they have these 2 freaking like horror game series going, and then they make this super colorful thing, and it's just very different. I think they clearly can do all sorts of fun, unique things.
Yeah,
it's okay to have I'm gonna say AA, just in the sense of like what it kind of like does numbers wise. It's okay to have that space there, let that flourish, for God's sakes.
I agree completely. Yep.
And all need to be Call of Duty and Fortnite money.
Yeah, it looks like Polygon got it first, or at least of the major ones, because now I do see it on IGN and GameSpot and some of these others. And on a related note, then I got sad because I checked Game Informer and I forgot that they're shut down. So Game Informer.
Yeah, Yeah.
Game Informer is gone. And then if you go to their website, it actually has like a nice little message like thanking people. I didn't realize they were around for 33 years. That's awesome. And then just some of their cool covers they've had over the years. They always had the coolest magazine designs.
Yeah.
Really cool.
That week the way we mentioned it last week.
Yeah.
I have the Final Fantasy 15 one. That's just really nice art. So
yeah. But yeah, hopefully they get good gigs at other. I mean, there's other opportunities hopefully to write about games and review games and all that stuff. But
I hope so.
Anyway, okay, so that's it for news. I believe I'd love hearing that story about Tango getting saved. The only thing I would add is actually I'll add a couple things as a quick hit, and then I'll let you wrap it up with your quick hits, Dan. So the only other game that came out last week that I did try a little bit this weekend was World of Goo 2, which is out.
You mentioned that.
Played it a little bit. I don't think either of you have played either of these games.
I have played the first one. I remember I either had it on the Wii or like I remember like getting some like free tablet through whatever phone provider we had at the time, and it was like a free game on the. I think it was a free game on the tablet. So
yeah, it's a great touchscreen motion control type game because you're aiming and trying to move the little blob into a certain spot, and then you want it to connect. It's a physics-based thing where you're trying to create a frame to get from point A to point B, and then as the puzzles get more complex, you have different goals. Usually, it's just trying to get all the little blobs, as many as possible, to escape. But you have to use them to create the frame. So each one that you use, you lose one.
Lemmings, right?
Yeah, it's got a Lemmings vibe to it. Yeah, except that you're actually using the little creatures to. I guess in Lemmings you do too. You create them as stoppers. You create them as So it's got that vibe. And this one feels exactly like the first one. So if you liked the vibe and feel even the first couple levels, I'm like, is this the first game? Because it's identical. Like as they teach you the basics, but they quickly add in some new layers and flavor to things and some new challenges. And I mean, it's a puzzle game. It's a motion or touchscreen based puzzle game. Touchscreen on handheld works great. I also got the little Joy-Cons off, and you just need one. It's really just one button and moving it around the screen. I kind of like that. It's pretty fun to point at the screen and do that.
Yeah.
And it works great if you play it on PC, keyboard and mouse. Of course, a mouse is great for this game as well. So I don't know. It's fun. The 2D, what are they called? 2D Boy. That company makes some fun stuff, some silly stuff.
Yeah. I remember it being actually. I think we finished it. I think my wife and I actually finished that.
Yeah,
first one.
3 quick movies that I was watching, mostly while traveling. I got to see a couple movies, but I saw Roadhouse, the Prime movie that came out earlier this year, with Jake Gyllenhaal. So dreamy.
What is it? So is that even like? Is it good? I mean,
it's good. It's
so
is it
random.
great?
Like, oh,
no.
Roadhouse.
Yeah, like why did you remake Roadhouse? It's like this Patrick Swayze classic that everyone loves. I mean, if you go back and watch it with no context or no nostalgia, you're probably like, this isn't all that amazing. Like, why do you love it so much? Sure. But if you grew up with it or saw it like on TBS reruns as I did, randomly in the past, you kind of have a love for it. But I thought this one was a competent remake, not necessary, but I do like Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's a great leading man. He reminds me of Ryan Gosling a lot. He just has like a swagger and a confidence when he's on the screen. Right. I think those two guys are two of the best right now. They're kind of in their prime. And so I do like him. The other actors in it were fine. No one really stood out. Some of them were pretty bad, but then you had Conor McGregor, who comes in as like the main beefy villain. And he's one of the reasons it got an R rating, because not only does he swear nonstop, but there's multiple shots of his naked rear end as he's walking down the street with his Connor strut, as he does. Sure. It's pretty funny, actually. But it's, I don't know how to describe. Tell you what, if you ever have like a guy night and you grab a bunch of beers and pizza and just put something on the big screen and turn up the volume, it's a good one for that.
Sure.
It's a better option than like Expendables 2, which we talked about earlier. In my opinion, it's better than those.
Okay.
But it's just not amazing. It's not going to win any awards. But it's not as good as like a John Wick. A John Wick would be a better choice for a fun guys' night, because those movies are just top tier. So it's not on that par, but it was pretty fun. I had a good time with it. I had a good time with that movie. Just kind of mindless, dumb fun. And I do like Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's a really good lead.
He's a good actor. He's a good actor.
Yeah, he's good. And the story's fine. Everything about it's just kind of like fine. You know, guy with a dark past that slowly gets revealed throughout the movie of like what he, what is his darkness that he's so embarrassed about and so ashamed of. Goes to small no-name town for really truly no reason outside of someone asked him to, and
Sure.
And defends them against the super rich, lives on a yacht bad guys who are trying to take the roadhouse away from, take the bar away from the people. But
yeah.
Although if you look at it, just kind of like look out and look, okay, they're actually offering you a lot of money because they just want to build a resort here. You could buy a much better bar in a better location on the other side of the island. And
it's the sentimental value, Tim. It means something.
Again, it's got that vibe to it. Like you ever saw like Walking Tall with The Rock, where he comes in and defends the bar against the local bad guys.
I haven't seen it, but
it's got that vibe,
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's fine. I thought it was good. I think objectively, it's fine. But I had a good time with it. I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5 star. Like to me, it was pretty fun. Maybe 3.5 at the most. But yeah, it's in that range. And I watched Hitman with Glenn Powell. It's a Netflix one that it's not kid friendly, but man, is that funny. Like I thought it was really good. It said it's loosely based on a real story. This guy, Gary Johnson. I don't know how accurate that is. I didn't do any research, so I don't know.
Okay.
But the short version is he is a psychology professor, kind of a nerdy dude. Although you can tell he's actually like a buff, handsome Hollywood star. It's hard to hide that sometimes behind a wig and a baggy shirt.
Yeah, it's like when Clark Kent puts on the glasses. It's
a little bit of that. Superman, and he has like a bad wig that makes him look like he's kind of frumpy or whatever, and not taking care of himself. But anyway, he helps the police department to do these sting operations to catch people who are trying to hire someone to kill somebody for them. So like they'll have a fake hitman go in, meet with them. Once they confirm the money's been handed over and they've confirmed with words, I want you to take this person out. Now they can be arrested for, attempted assassination or whatever. So it's a sting operation that he's helping with. He gets recruited into going in to be the guy, and apparently because of his psychology background, he's really good at it. So it's just funny. Like he takes on all these different personas based on what that person is looking for in a hitman. And yeah. And things happen. He ends up getting like involved personally with one of them, and yeah. But I think it's a surprisingly good movie. It shouldn't have been as good as it was, like just based on the description of it.
Yeah.
I like that one. And last but not least, the one that I loved is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, I was gonna say I have that on my list. I finished that one.
I really liked that movie a lot.
Yeah,
it was a good time.
It's well, you give your thoughts first because I.
Okay, yeah. So I love the trilogy, the new trilogy. I was a very casual, almost non-fan of the old ones. I thought the Mark Wahlberg one from like whatever that was 20 years ago was somewhere between bad and okay.
I just grabbed this like a couple of weeks ago.
Triple trilogy with the Caesar trilogy is amazing. I love it. I really love those movies.
Yeah.
The Mark Wahlberg one was, I see what they're trying to do. Parts of it I thought were interesting, but overall not great. Like it was pretty cheesy, not a great movie. And then those three were so good. And I thought with this, oh no, we're going back to cheesy and bad. Like how are you going to follow up the Caesar trilogy? It's loosely connected, but it's in a much different like time. A lot of time has passed.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really well done. And we talked about the Witcher show earlier. It's got that actress who's in the Witcher show as Ciri.
Oh, okay.
She's the main human who's in it.
Okay.
I thought the visuals were awesome. I thought the set pieces were really impressive. And overall, I found myself very invested in these characters and their story and who survived and who didn't. And I thought they gave all of the different characters, whether it was apes or humans or whatever, mostly apes, obviously, but a few humans, gave them a lot of personality. And I kind of empathized with multiple different pieces that were moving, and I'm excited to see what they do next because I want to see the next phase of how they're going to navigate this stuff. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's I freaking love that trilogy. Yeah, Andy Serkis, obviously he's just amazing at doing that kind of work, right? So obviously he just nails Caesar. Gollum, for anybody who doesn't know who Andy Serkis is, just that guy, Gollum. From Lord of the Rings.
But he does a super imposing leader as Caesar, who's like,
dude, yeah,
so good.
Yeah, like, yeah, absolutely. And just, yeah, if you've not watched that original trilogy and you don't know how the third one ends, like this one opens up with kind of being like, oh, hey, here's the reminder of that. Like
it gives you a summary. Yeah.
Yeah, here's the reminder of like kind of what that is, and then it mentions like it's like generations later. So
if you don't want to be spoiled on the first three, definitely don't watch this one. But if you kind of don't care seeing them out of order, it catches you up pretty quick and jumps right in, I think.
It does feel like it feels like one of those movies where it's like they did a good enough job where it's like so far in the future where it's like it's not necessary. At least not yet, anyways, right? Because I mean, who knows with this trilogy? Maybe they rope in some more like threads in from that first trilogy.
They will. I hope they will. Yeah.
I don't know if they've mentioned it. I have a theory with Noah, the main character there, because I mean, if you look at his face, I mean,
dude, that's what I was thinking about having his movie.
Literally Caesar.
I was like, he's part of that bloodline. I bet you.
Yeah,
they don't.
Absolutely.
Just to be clear, that's not a spoiler. They don't say that, but dude. Come on.
It's like that's his face, right? That's like basically
because I think there's going to be more like him uncovering what Caesar taught, who he was, and then his history and his what do they call it? Your not your ancestors, your progeny. I don't know what they call it. Anyway, I feel like there's going to be connections, if not directly to him, then to some character in the new trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that to me like leads going into 2, like finding that out because clearly something over time happened in between where things kind of splintered off and like got like weird and things got lost in the shuffle, so to speak. And then they'll kind of like find out like, oh, like that's who Noah is. So but yeah, it kind of gave me like the energy of like the first one, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, of like this is like a beginning thing where we're not getting like the totally crazy shit happening yet, because like in 2 and 3 of those movies, like shit is crazy. In War of Planet of the Apes and what the hell is the other one?
So there's Rise and then Dawn and then War.
Dawn, thank you. Yeah, I always switch Dawn and War.
Yeah.
But Dawn and War is like really like things are like really dark and like dire and like violent and everything. So yeah, this to me felt like it's
Rise almost has like old Yeller vibes for a little while there. You know what I mean? Like the family and the guy, James Franco, like super charming and a baby monkey, but then it turns dark by the end. And the other two,
oh, for sure. Yeah. But this is like, this is kind of just like setting up where it's like the humble beginnings of like, here's this monkey Noah and like his tribe and what's going on there. And then I feel like things are going to definitely like escalate as we find out more about Noah.
Yes.
And like, and then the human element there. Cause like now we're kind of like we're almost like swinging it maybe back the other way.
Swinging. I see what you
did there. Wasn't even intentional, but that worked.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a underground rebellion that is probably more of a threat than we realize to So that stuff's really intriguing to me as well.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see, because the human element here is like it's very like it's so like razor thin of like, oh, they trust each other but they don't, but they do, but they don't. So it's like obviously there's going to be ups and downs, I would imagine, in this trilogy if they get to do them. Hopefully they do. I think this one did well money wise, but things have been weird with movies. Things
have been weird. I actually don't know how it well did. I will say that of the original trilogy, the first one, Rise, is the weakest one. It's establishing a lot, but it does have one of the coolest moments, in my opinion. The big no scene is one of the coolest moments in, honestly, probably any movie, but I love that scene. But it is the weakest of the 3. The other ones are much more compelling, much more rewatchable, in my opinion. And so if that pattern proves itself, then the follow-ups to this are going to be excellent. Because this is like really good, but not up to par of the previous 2 for sure. I think it's close to what Rise was.
It's a solid foundation, much like how Rise is. So
that's how I'm feeling about it. It's like on par with Rise, maybe a tad better, but it's on par with Rise. The Planet of the Apes, and I thought it was such a good time. I'm probably gonna rewatch it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable. So fingers crossed, because I could be wrong. I think they're saying they want to do 9 total.
Dang.
So
like 3 different trilogies, you think, or
I could be wrong, but at the very least, let's just focus on this trilogy here. Let's not jump the gun.
Yeah.
They get to make this trilogy because
honestly, just make the next one good. That's all. Just make the next one really good. Worry about the other movies later. Yeah.
But yeah,
one at a time,
agree.
folks. One at a time. Yeah, Freya Allen is the name of the girl. The actress is in it. She does a good job. She's very young, but I think she's got potential to kind of become a real recognizable.
Well, I mean the like twist with her.
Yep.
If you've watched the first, you're like, oh snap, okay.
Yep.
So
she did a good job with that, and then I thought she carried it with some weight towards the end. You know, as she had to. There were some key plot moments that were all centered around her decisions that she was making. So
yeah.
So that's got an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 78% audience score, really aligned on critics and audience, which is kind of rare. It feels like. So yeah, critic wise, it went well. Trying to see, how do you see how much money it made?
I know it made a few hundred million, but I don't know how many hundreds of millions.
Yeah, and like, what was the budget for it? You know?
Well, that too, yeah. Because like, if it was like 150 to 200 million, if it made 400, 500 million, it's like, well, you made a profit, but like that might not be good enough for them, you know. So
it says, does that say only 141? 141. That might not be enough.
Like what it made or the budget?
Oh, but I was way off. Okay, so the budget was 160.
Okay.
And the box office was just under 400.
Okay.
That to me feels like it did well.
Yeah, but well, right, to us, like, because it's like, well, you made a profit, you know, but is it good enough of a profit for them to make another one?
I know. I say, to me, I'm like, duh, of course it did. But then, of course, as we've talked about, studios have been shut down for much less. But
yeah,
anyway.
basically, absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. Who's the guy? The guy, Wes Ball. Oh, he did the Maze Runner movies. Yeah, the jury was out on whether or not this would be good. Because I'm not saying those are bad, but like they're, young adult fiction books that are brought to the screen, and those are hit or miss for a lot of people, I think. So, all right, that's all I had. So yeah, since that's one of yours too, what else? Anything else? Quick hits for you?
So I watched that on Hulu. I actually have the Blu-ray pre-ordered because I didn't realize it was coming sooner, but I'm getting the Blu-ray for that. And then back to what we were talking about earlier with Deadpool and Wolverine. Dude, that movie, get the hell out of here with 78. Like, are you kidding me? This movie is unbelievably fun, dude. It's insane. This movie is so fun. Like it bonkers amounts of fun. I mean, I don't know if it's like I would give it in the 90s, but like, dude, like freaking Hugh Jackman,
yeah,
got jacked again. Freaking Wolverine, we're getting Wolverine again. Like, are you shitting me?
I mean, on Metacritic, it's got a 56.
That's insane, Tim. That's so insane. Yeah. This movie is the most fun I've had in the MCU since, was it No Way Home? That was the last Spider-Man one, right? No Way Home. I always forget what
No Way Home. Yes.
Yeah. Like I had that much levels of fun, which I mean, I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite freaking superhero. Wolverine would be my second favorite. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm.
Well, hey, on Metacritic, Borderlands is at 27.
Well, there you go. There's a good gap there in between.
It's twice as good as that.
Yeah, absolutely. But dude, yeah, I mean, obviously not getting into spoilers or anything, which by the way, like I had to go to the theater sooner than I probably would have given it maybe another week or two. But like, dude, the internet is just plastering all of these cameos and like everything. Like, it's like, Jesus
I've already
Christ,
seen so many spoilers. Like I probably won't see it in theaters, but yeah, I've already seen a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. From like reels or like an image or a meme, like tons of stuff. No one's even trying to hide it.
Insane.
By the way, out of curiosity, I looked up Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It was a 66 on Metacritic, which is in the green. That's pretty good.
Sure.
Metacritic's a little different than Rotten Tomatoes. It actually does the scores as opposed to like percentage of positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just it in my opinion, because I we've discussed on here ad nauseum the multiverse. I think it did it right because like it feels like contained, but like things happen, and it does feel like they carry like weight within this movie, but like work into the multiverse, and it's a contained thing, and it doesn't feel like, I feel like you could just like you could have watched all of the Fox stuff, that all X-Men and everything, and Deadpool 1 and 2, and then just watch this and have a hell of a time and just like super enjoy it, and not have watched any of the MCU things. So it does feel like enough of it is like contained where you're gonna have a good time and watch it if you know.
But the Easter eggs are still fun if you've seen all the Marvel stuff, right?
Oh, 100. But mainly, Tim, Fox related stuff.
Yes.
Fox related stuff.
Yeah, because even Deadpool 1 and 2, not only does he constantly call out not just Wolverine, but Hugh Jackman by name as well. Like which is one of the things I loved about the first two movies, is that it absolutely breaks that fourth wall multiple times.
Yeah.
And then of course you've got, outside of those movies, just Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's like viral back and forth for ads and like little funny YouTube sketches they do together. And I think that stuff's great. So them doing a movie together as these two characters, I think is fantastic. I think it's funny.
I really enjoyed it. I probably, if I like right off the top of my head, gun to my head, was like, well, give it a percentage, like I would give it a 90. Like I super had a lot of fun with it. Really, really enjoyable. Nice. And then referencing back to V, Tim, here's some more V for you. I watched Gen V, season 1 of Gen V, which is that spinoff, the Boys spinoff.
Oh, the Boys thing. Okay.
Yeah. Had a really good time with that. I was actually really surprised.
They're making us another season of that too, aren't they?
They are. Which super bummer, because one of the characters and one of the main characters there in the show, the black kid, he passed away in real life.
The actor did.
Yeah, the actor did, which is super sad. So I don't know.
Horrible.
I don't know what they're gonna do with that there, but he was actually really good in it, really good. Yeah. So that's a real bummer.
That's sad.
But yeah, I finished season 4 of The Boys, and then I went right into that. So like I was just kind of like vibing with it, and
you were all in that universe.
Yeah, it was all up in there, because season 1 is basically in between seasons 3 and 4. So it's like it's not like it's like all the way back at season 1 of The Boys, where it's kind of like, what was that about? Like I don't really remember. So it's kind of like fresh on the mind. Of the newer seasons. So yeah, I think it's definitely like, if you like The Boys, then definitely watch that, because like there's definitely stuff in there that like matters towards The Boys show. So it's just a good ride. There's definitely some fun like twists and turns in there, and just good moments with the characters, and a good hook, just kind of like figuring out like what the deal is with the school that they're at, and like what's going on like behind the scenes, and the shady shit that's happening. So
nice. I do want to see it. I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
I'm excited to watch that one.
I'm pretty sure you like The Boys as well.
So. I did, but I did not watch the newest season yet.
Okay.
That's one of those shows that it's kind of like I quietly enjoy, because I cannot recommend it to almost anyone that I know. You know what I mean?
It's not friendly. It's
not even kid friendly. That's not even adult friendly for certain adults. You know what I mean? Like it's a rough watch.
Especially in these last two seasons 3 and 4 of The Boys, like there's some stuff. Like,
stuff. Yeah, there's some stuff. But anyway, yes, I also want to see Deadpool and Wolverine. There's a bunch of stuff that's come out that I want to catch up on. So looking forward to. There's even a new Batman show, I guess, that's on Prime.
Animated show, yeah. Which
that's
I think
interesting.
I don't know if it's like a sequel to that 90s one, or if it's like kind of just like
spirit. It looks like a noir version. I wonder if it's like set back in the day. I think it's like set farther back in the day a little bit. Anyway, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, but I think that does it for us for this week. We made it through. We were able to get Kyle out of here and finish an episode. I'm sorry, folks, he had to go. So, but next week maybe he'll be back. I know Dan will be out next week, so maybe Dan's the one I'll have kicked out, and it'll be Kyle back to talk about stuff.
He's at 10, so
yeah. But next week we're gonna preview some things that are coming up, like the Black Myth Wukong and Star Wars Outlaws. We'll be doing some previewing of some of the big games that are some of the heavy hitters that are about to land. And you know what? Before we go, when is Gamescom, because that might be a big part of our conversation coming up soon. It is August 21st. So yeah, maybe we'll do some Gamescom predictions as well, because that'll be that following week. It'll be the big opening night live.
It up real fast so that I didn't get to say what I was gonna say.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for us this week. Thanks, Dan, for being here. Thanks for holding down the fort as well. Appreciate it. And thank you all for watching, listening. We'll talk to you next time. See ya.